Motion comes Barber behind Duggan. Handoff goes. No. Duggan keeps. Turns upfield. Cuts it back and dives and scores. Hit the horn in Waco. From 7 yards out, Max Duggan.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
In field goal range, though. Harris to the end zone. Franklin, touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Vaughn gets the edge. Deuce Vaughn in the clear. Did he make a man miss? And it's easy. Touchdown, Kansas State. And the Cats get closer to the conference championship. 44 yards as they cash in on the takeaway.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Bijan Robinson back in the backfield. 3rd and goal. Lining up out of the eye. Bijan, touchdown Horns.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Another run. Duggan. How does he have anything left in the tank? He barrels in the end zone within 2 of time.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Wednesday afternoon, and a lot of player movement, including Baylor last night, getting news on an offensive lineman from Brigham Young, players entering the NFL. And then also today, the California Board of Regents will meet as they try to, make the next step or decision involving UCLA and the Big Ten. Can you guys, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak, thank you for being here at 365 Sports. Can you see the backlash if they tried to prevent UCLA from leaving? What would that lead to? How many lawsuits would that lead to? Or can they just do that and walk away?
I don't think that anything is going to really happen. I think this is mostly posturing, or, you have to do everything you can to appease everybody who feels like they need a say in this. Like, UCLA's ultimate trump card in this is, hey, our athletic department is in an enormous amount of debt. This allows us to get out of debt. The current situation does not. So unless you can provide us with a way or make us have something, is not, then this is just going to go on and drag on forever. This is just the last step in the process for the California university system to be able to say that they did everything they could to understand the situation. But ultimately, money will win out. And that's what will happen. So there'll be a lot of posturing and things said today, and a lot of things that maybe don't make sense or are trumped up. I hate using that verb again, but, exaggerated situations. But ultimately, UCLA will be able to begin their journey to the Big Ten at the end of the meeting today.
Well, yeah, we're going to get some finality today, and we'll actually get a decision, so that'll be nice because this has, been something kind of on the periphery for a few months ever since that decision was initially made. After some scuttlebutt and some talk that, maybe they'll stand in the way and some conversations here and there and a couple of meetings, tonight we'll find out, exactly what's going to go down and how that will go down, and that should clear the way in my mind for UCLA to go ahead and move to the Big Ten here in the next couple of years, along with USC. USC is obviously free and clear, not under that Cal system. That same what is it? How would you refer to that? how would you refer to the California system, I guess is what it
California
is.
university system,
yeah, the university system. But, not being a part of that, this has been free and clear for them. But for the Bruins, it's been a little bit of a pain in the neck. So I'm sure they're looking forward to some finality. I don't think for 2 seconds that they're going to, stop them from making the move. I feel like this is a lot of posturing, as you guys kind of referred to. And I think that ultimately we'll see the Bruins get the free and clear to go ahead and move forward and, go ahead and make that landscape-changing move that it will be once the two LA schools are a part of the Big Ten. So good to see that we're in a spot where there will be some decisions made, but I'm definitely not of the opinion that it's going to be something that prevents this from ultimately happening. I'm not putting stock into them being a roadblock. And then, if you were even to do that, I mean, are you going to put a gun to their head and make them sign a grant of rights agreement for this new Pac-12 TV deal? I'm not signing anything if I'm UCLA. So, the moment that the Big Ten decides that they want to expand more, they go, hey, you know what? We are going to go add Oregon and Washington now. I mean, what's going to stop? I mean, ultimately, I think you can maybe prevent it and slow it down, but I don't think you're ultimately going to stop what's inevitable. And I think UCLA to the Big Ten's inevitable, so might as well go ahead and get it moving right now.
Did it help that anyone went down to the Texas legislature after Texas decided they, along with Oklahoma, were going to leave for the SEC?
Well, and here's the thing. That wasn't about making them stay. That was just about getting a very public forum to illuminate everything that had been going on. Because I don't think that at that point Bob Bowlesby was going to make them stay, but he was going to show everybody what had kind of gone on. Because at that point, there's no reason to protect those what had been private discussions about other things. So because the politicians are going to need to be fed, right? And so that was a mutually beneficial situation for all those people in the Texas Senate and for Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 to be able to go in. They can ask their questions, make their little silly comments here and there and their digs or whatever they want to do.
Silly.
I'm not talking the politicians. Several of them made silly little digs and things that, Texas is leaving after TCU beat them. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah. Yes, we all love to do that, but in the forum of the Texas Senate, that really is not bearing on the legislative effects of this. So that was because one side definitely needed to air some dirty laundry, and there were people up there on the Texas Senate that, and I'm not saying they should know this, but had no idea of all these things and needed to hear it.
Maybe not learned anything even that
maybe
day.
not.
But so they'll have that. That goes on about 4:30 our time. We have feelers out to others. We've got guys who cover the Pac-12 and even Tony Altimore, who's a USC guy, but also covers that area, kind of just keeping up to date with what's going on. France beat Morocco today in the other semifinal. France beat Morocco, and so they're into the championship, the World Cup final, and they won it 2-0. It was pretty decisive. They scored 4 minutes in and then scored late, and 2-0 in soccer, 1-0 in soccer. With all due respect, they were able to shut out Morocco 2-0. So they now move into the final against Argentina.
Yep.
Is that right? Yes, it is, with Messi and others. High school football note real quick, and then we got some college notes. The high school football state championship week is this week. It started earlier today up at AT&T Stadium. Yes, that's where the Cowboys play. That's where they have bowl games in the Big 12 championship, Cotton Bowl. Earlier today, Lorraine was hammered for the second time this year. Benjamin won the state title in Class 1A, six-man football Division II. And right now, Westbrook at halftime leads Abbott. Paul, what's their nickname?
They are, unfortunately, the Panthers, but they should be the Redheaded Strangers because that is where the great Willie Nelson went to high school.
They're down 16 at halftime to Westbrook, and so they both have won a state championship prior. Mart from our backyard plays tonight against Albany in the Class 2A Division II state championship. Now, here are some stories in college football. You guys opine, and as you want. Let's go to what On3.com had this story up earlier today. Shannon Terry, the On3 NIL valuation for a 2023 five-star, and there are 32 of those according to their site. Rivals has their site. 247 has their site. When looking at the roster value, collectives, the On3 NIL valuation for a five-star player that they are tracking is $269,493. The average is at 206,000. All blue chips, that includes others outside of the 5, is 41,000. That's the average.
Well, it's getting to be good business to be a highly recruited prospect. I mean, look, if I was 18 years old and knew I was going to make $41,000, I wouldn't have much to complain about in my life. You know what I could have done with
that doesn't include what they also get from the school because of what they now are doing, those $6,000 a year and all the other things that come with that.
Do you know how much easier my life would have been from ages 18 to 22 if I had $41,000 in my bank account?
Right, yeah.
Do you know how much a lot of people's lives would be that they would not have had to take out a student loan?
Yeah,
paid it off immediately.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good business. $200,000 for, and I get it. You're wealthy and you run a collective, and this is what you want to spend your money on. Knock it out. But I would have a problem with every recruiting class. If I'm giving 25 guys money, I would want to see at least 20 of those guys, 18 liberally, pay off for the school that I'm running the collective for. But, for example, Texas A&M has 22 players in the portal, and I believe 11 of those are from last year's class. Half of them are from last year's class. I would be a little upset that I spent 6 figures potentially on somebody who was just there for a year and left.
And they'll just give it to somebody else for the incoming class.
Yeah.
Craig?
Yeah, I don't know where they get their numbers from. I'm not doubting them in any way, but I guess we just have to trust those numbers. And it's curious to see like how that all is sort of averaging out and how that's all sort of combining together to give us a look into, on average, I guess is what that is, what schools are paying. I don't think there's much surprise there that there's a lot of money going around. Again, not sure. I'm sure they've talked to players and that's how they've gotten that. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know where the numbers come from exactly, but I'm sure that that's pretty spot on. And so, I don't know that that's really a surprise for too many folks that, tens of thousands of dollars are being exchanged. I mean, you look at some of these top prospects and they're getting $1 million deals, $1 million+ deals over the span of 3-4 years, whatever it is that they eventually agree to. I do think there's a bit too much fogginess when it comes to what actually is being passed around, because you can say average all you want to, but if Bryce Young's making $2+ million, that kind of fudges the numbers a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's still a lack of information out there, but that's at least helpful for those who care about such a thing to have a better idea of sort of what the common player is getting on any given level. So that's cool. But I'd love to actually, I guess, maybe have a bit more meat on the bone when it comes to like, oh, this guy's really getting this. But that's more helpful than just a pure guessing game. So, for the folks who are like super into the NIL thing, which I'm not, like I'm for it and all that. I'm not caught up in like, man, can you believe so-and-so? Like, I don't care that Jaden Rashada got offered this amount of money or that Nico Iamaleava is getting reportedly, whatever the rumor was months ago, $7 million. That's cool. But it's all kind of hearsay too.
Well,
you know what I mean? So
until you see tax returns,
I would, if that was like a report on ESPN.com, like Tennessee offers $7 million 4 years for Nico Iamaleava, like I would be probably more into that because it would just be more substantial and more than just kind of like, well, we heard and just trust us on this, or this is what this collective told us, or whatever. But I know that that's not where we are with college football, that it's going to probably be super murky and super rumor mill and super just message board guessing. But, that's better than what we had early on. So, I'm not surprised by those numbers.
Yeah. I think it's probably a little bit less than we think in a lot of cases, but not that much less. Like, like the $7 million thing, like I think it may be one of the things that could be, but I do think that like he's 7 figures before he walks into his first class in Knoxville.
And how many guys have like, well, if you win the Heisman, you would. What kind of deals are we talking?
See, I wonder if it's a need to come. Are there incentives?
Right.
Because then it really is almost more pay for play if it's incentive-based.
Yeah, and you can't do that, right? That's against the rules. So it's so murky. And, I know that they're doing their best job, and others who cover that part of the game are doing their best job to, try and cover that as closely as they can. And certainly, we talked to their On3 NIL reporter the other day, and they've got their sources who are feeding them information, but there's a lot of schools. There's a lot of players, like there's a lot to try and track down. I mean, if you just took like the top 20 schools right now and just tried to sort through all their NIL deal, much less, I don't know, let's add another 100 and plus schools. And I know not all of them are in the NIL game deep, and maybe some of them have like a guy making like $1,000, on the lower levels. But I think just that lack of transparency and that lack of really knowing what's what, because man, is there a sport that they lie about stuff more than college football? I mean, just in general. Mm-hmm. I mean, no. I mean, it's coaches are saying stuff out of the side of their mouths all the time when it comes to their program or somebody else's program or what they need to tell this recruiter or whatever. So, it's cool to have kind of a barometer, but there is still a lot of murkiness to it that I do wonder, as NIL becomes more of a focus and becomes like a focal point of certain websites and certain companies, just how much is emphasized on that part of the game to the point of where maybe you are going to have to that's going to be, it's already becoming its own sort of side industry anyways, and own industry really, and we're barreling down that way. But I guess I'm saying all that to say, I wonder when we get to the point where you do see that just on ESPN.com of like, Tennessee signs this guy to this NIL deal that says this much money for this, you know what I mean? Like more like the NFL. And whether that's good or bad, we can all agree the players getting paid is not a bad thing, but the manner in which it's being done, I think, is still very much a work in progress.
I'm going to try to see if we can get Shannon Terry on. He's the one that posted this on his Twitter account. He also had this one about the same time. The current On3 NIL valuations for all active college football rosters, a 12-month projection, so an annual value, including both brand value, national sponsorships, and roster value, collectives driven, are as follows. The first column is the all value, and the second is the median. Power 5 conferences, 50,007 Power 5 average. SEC, not a surprise, they're leading the way by nearly 20 grand with the Big Ten, 8,000 ACC. The Big 12 is actually third here. Pac-12 is fourth in the ACC. Not much difference between the last three, and that's per 12 months, according to Shannon Terry from On3.com.
Pac-12 fifth. I think you said fourth, but Big 12 fourth on that.
No. If you look on the left-hand side, the left-hand side, SEC 68's first, Big 10 50. The Big 12's at 45,000, which would put them at 3. Then the Pac-12 fourth and the ACC fifth. They have them in order, but not in order of what is the annual or the average.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Like this was what I was talking about the other day, talking about NIL. Like I don't really know how to talk about it. Like it's like, okay.
Let me ask you a question. Is that per player?
No way.
Is that per school?
No.
Because if we know that some have gotten 7 figures, or if that's been reported, so what is that?
Can you pop that back up? I want to see something just real quick. Okay, Big 12, 45. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just average is what that is.
If there's 85 players on scholarship.
Is there any way that Baylor or Iowa State or anybody is paying as much as what Texas is paying right now for their guys?
Or Oklahoma.
Quinn Ewers alone is probably worth like 20 Baylor players right now. Yeah. I mean, but hold on. But do we know that? No, right?
We don't.
That's just rumor mill too. That's just rumors that he signed for millions. That's just rumors that he signed for 2 or 3 or whatever. And so, again, we kind of know, but we don't know. And I trust that, these folks who are doing it professionally have word, and they've talked to the collective people, and they've talked. So, give credit to them for getting the information. But like in general, that's what I mean is like, we think we know, but we don't really know because it's kind of shady in terms of like solid meat to chew on. But then again, a lot of it also too is just kind of word of mouth. So to answer your question, no, I don't think that's across the board the norm. I think that there's a school like Texas who's come out and said that they were paying, what is it,
50 grand for the
50 grand lineman. For an O lineman, at least a few million for Quinn Ewers. I would imagine that they've had to appease Xavier Worthy in some form or fashion. Bijan's definitely getting money. I mean, so add that up, and that's just like a handful of guys right there versus like who would even command anything close to that on like half the other rosters in the league that would even approach Quinn Ewers' money. very few guys, much less than you dish out $50K per O lineman, and then you go down the line. So no, I don't think it's even across the board.
It would be interesting to find out where UT would be if they were, and they're about to be here in the next year or two in the SEC, where they would stack up with those, because that number is nearly $20,000 on average. Here are some other college football notes. Randy Clements, former Baylor offensive lineman, Florida State, Ole Miss, North Texas this past year, headed to join Mack Brown's staff at North Carolina.
Yeah, and Mack is running a wide-open offense now. Randy Clements is, for my money, the best offensive line coach when it comes to that scheme. I think that there is nobody who gets more out of guys who are in the middle rung of the prospect ladder on the offensive line and can coach up, train, move guys around. Of the guys who played center for him here at Baylor, I think maybe 2 of them were recruited to be centers, and then he just built centers out of the rest of them.
Yeah, some of them were guards the year before, tackles, like for Phillip Blake is one. I don't know, was Walton recruited as a center?
I believe so.
J.D. Walton, who became a long-time
and
NFL
I don't know if
player.
they actually recruited J.D. Walton, or if he was
might
there
have been
when,
part of Morse.
If he was, early on in his career when they got here. So this is a great hire for Mack Brown and UNC. I'm blanking if they've replaced Phil Longo officially yet.
I don't know.
But again, if they're going to run that offense, then Randy Clements is the dude who you'd want coaching the offensive line.
We have a guest coming up in Campbell Barrington, who's transferring from Brigham Young to Baylor. He'll join us today at 3:30. That was one of the stories that he transferred, made the announcement last night. He's coming to Baylor to be reunited with Eric Mateos. He was a freshman. I think he was made the freshman All-American team. This year was injured. So I don't think he ever actually played at Brigham Young when Mateos and Grimes were there, but obviously there's a connection there with that. Reggie Pearson, defensive back, Texas Tech to Mississippi State. Jalen Hyatt to the NFL from Tennessee.
No surprise there yet. I mean, there's kind of Randy Clements, first of all, that's a good hire for Mack Brown. I mean, based on what I've seen, I don't believe North Carolina's hired an offensive coordinator unless I've just completely missed it. But and that's entirely possible if I did. But, I mean, Randy Clements did a great job here in Waco. I think he and Mack have probably crossed paths since 2015, or
2016 was his last year at Baylor. And
Mack Brown's last year was the blackout game.
13, 12, may have been.
It was 2013, I guess. Yeah, when they played at Floyd Casey. So Baylor's been in their new stadium for like a decade at this point, and Mack played at the previous stadium, lost a Big 12 title game, basically, right, at Floyd Casey on a frigid day. And I wonder how many times they may have crossed paths since then. But that's at least one time we know that Clements and Brown would have crossed paths. But that was a long time ago. But, yeah, Clements is a really good O-line coach. He's been everywhere at this point. So I think that's a good move for the Tar Heels, who are clearly shuffling the deck chairs with Drake May at their disposal and wanting to maximize that. And also I think Mack needing to maximize, his remaining time in Chapel Hill as well, because I do think there's some of that, like, okay, you got these talented guys and, it kind of got everything you need, so to speak, and it's your job now to, like, go take it and run with it. And I don't think he's quite run with it the way that they expected just yet. So that's something to just kind of keep track of with all of the expectations that will be surrounding Drake May. They're going all in, and they need to, and that's smart to do. So yeah, just my thoughts on that one. And then Jalen Hyatt, that's totally not a surprise. Yeah.
2 years ago, Brown, or what was it, 2020, they had a really good run. Then last year they took a step back, and this year they were back a part of the conversation, played for an ACC championship.
Just have to finish.
Yeah, they just flamed out hard at the end of the season, but yeah.
I want to bring up Patrick Cheney, and I don't know if Patrick is watching us today. He has been in the chat room before. He's also, I believe, may have been someone who has texted us at times. Last night, Patrick got on Sikkim365.com and sent our administration of that site, which is Brian Etheridge, Colt Barber, and also Ashley Hodge, the partners who own what we do and also the umbrella of Sikkim365.com, and wrote an amazing letter to us and to this show. And Patrick, I don't know if you're watching yet today, but it was unbelievable what you said about our coverage of Mike Leach the last day or two, and especially yesterday. we appreciate you. Yesterday was something that we hoped we could at least give Mike Leach what he earned, deserved, and also what a lot of people wanted to know and hear about him with the stories. And we appreciate, Patrick, your email was very lengthy, and the comments, thank you very much. And Brian shared those with us late last night, and thank you again for what you said. Paula also sent a text that said that, I don't know if you guys have ever had a tribute show or not, but that one there was extra special. So thank you very much, as she monitors a lot of what we do on this particular show. All right, one other note in college sport. Now, let's take a break. I was going to be on college basketball with Xavier, Sean Miller, Arizona, as he pretty much dances away from a lot of what was the concern in Arizona. When we come back, Campbell Barrington, Brigham Young, transfer. He's taking a final, and then he has a presentation to give in about an hour and a half. He said he could squeeze an interview with him with us in between, and we'll do that next on 365 Sports. Ideal MRI talked to Dr. Rob Maxey about a week ago. Things are going well, coming off an incredible month, and the word is out. It has been out, but it's getting out even more, and that's my job to let you know why they are your first option. And really don't even like to use the word option. It should be your first choice and only choice, although a lot of it might be where you live based on our national audience with 365 Sports. Ideal MRI has a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. It is phenomenal. It's as good as you can get, and it's located in the Central Texas marketplace just off 35 in Waco. They can find out what is bothering you, whether it is a ligament, a muscle, or something else. If a doctor wants a better look at what hurts you, the point that shuts you down, you can't function, or it just is so painful, they can get it because they have the machine, the MRI machine, to find it. The techs and specialists are amazing. The doctors will get back with you very quickly. They'll put all the video and images in a portal. And also on top of that, when you walk out the door, you don't have to be shaking because it's $497. It's not $1,500 or $1,200 or $900. It's not $500. It's $497 every single time, and they'll help you with your insurance filings at idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
I have Campbell Barrington from BYU. He's transferring to Baylor, an offensive lineman. And, man, does Baylor need help there because of where they are with the eligibility of others. Now, he was taking a final exam, and we're working on getting him on the show here. We don't have another guest for a little bit, so we'll be able to try to lock that in with Campbell Barrington, who's decided to transfer to Baylor. And Craig, just no matter what, let's just say his name was Fred Smith, obviously coming from Brigham Young, wherever he was from, the need that they have, anyone does, on the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's more to it than just a body. They need somebody who's actually going to come in and contribute. They've had plenty of guys who are bodies that come in and just take up a scholarship spot and don't quite make their way onto the field or make their way into the field and don't quite perform at a certain level. And, they've got now a situation where there are a bunch of guys who were impactful, who, did play a lot of games, who made a lot of starts, who were a part of a lot of the success that they've had, that are all walking out the door simultaneously, a number of them, nearly an entire O-line's worth. And so they don't just need guys. They do to some extent, because you just have to keep refilling the coffers on the O-line. But, more than depth, they need quality. They need guys who can play. And, I think that there's certainly going to be a little bit of a expectation that O-line will take a step back next year. It's going to be very much a work in progress, because while you do have some experience that will be coming back, guys like Gavin Byers, you just can't replace the others and the Connor Galvins who played for 4 years, or 5 years. That's something you just don't get overnight. So, good to get the depth and good to get the bodies, but got to get them to work and got to get him playing at a high level, which I know Eric Mateos will do eventually down the line. But, to just simply get his pledge and know that he can come in and compete pretty much right away is a big feather in their cap. And quite frankly, they needed some positive news, because as of late, it hasn't been anything but just sort of disappointment after disappointment, whether it be the bowl announcement or prior to that, the way that they finished the season on a 3-game losing streak, to then getting a couple of decommits, even if they were expected or even wanted in some cases, to free up some needed space. This is good all the way around, and now just about getting them on campus and getting them to work. And, I'm sure Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes will be able to do that at the high level that they've done so far, with everybody we've seen them get their hands on here in Waco.
So Campbell Barrington, he's been taking a final exam, and now he has a presentation, so we need to get out of his way, but he's going to give us some time, and we appreciate the afternoon, and Craig was just summarizing the Baylor offensive line, the depth chart, and much more. And Campbell joins us on 365. Campbell, thanks for your time. What's it been like today? I know a lot of stress on you today, but what was more stressful, the transfer decision or your final exam?
I'd definitely say the transfer, but, hopefully the exam went well as well.
Campbell, you've played, against Baylor at BYU. You know Eric Mateos. You know Jeff Grimes. What about the Baylor situation made it the best for you and the easiest, smoothest transition?
Yeah, having that relationship, knowing what I'm going to go into, definitely played a big role in my decision. But just to feel the family feel the way they're running things down there just seemed like it was the right fit for me.
Campbell, can you explain to us what the transfer portal process is like?
Sorry, what was that?
Can you explain to us what the transfer portal process is like?
Yeah, so I was waiting until the day came that I could enter the transfer portal, and then, from there, luckily for me, there's been a lot of opportunities, but just weighing my options and a lot of chatting with my wife, with my family, and then, it's been a good experience thus far, so.
Campbell, how much did you know Eric Mateos? Because he left before I believe you arrived based on the timeline. Was there any kind of communication with him when he was actually at BYU?
Yeah, so I went and served a mission right out of high school, and then I got back, and I was with him for about half a season. So there was some communication there.
What about with Jeff Grimes? The same thing?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about the wide zone that they ran at Brigham Young and what they're running now at Baylor?
I think they're I don't know. They were here, right? So a lot of the stuff that we are still doing is stuff that they're doing as well. I'd say definitely this season we've kind of gone away a little bit from the wide zone and focused more on mid zone and that kind of stuff. But I'm excited to get back to it at the wide zone with them at Baylor.
What are your thoughts about living in Texas?
The only time I've ever been down there before this last weekend was when we played them last year. So it was cool. It's got a good hometown feel. Reminds me a lot of where I grew up. So it was good.
Campbell, who did you first notify when it came to your commitment, and what was the subsequent response? And was it a bunch of people? Was it just calling Coach Mateos? Like, kind of how did all that unfold? Take us in.
Yeah, so Coach Mateos came out and visited last night, and I was there with my family and just told him he was super excited, and then from there we called everybody else on the team, and they're all as well super excited. So
Mateos just had a child, his wife did, and so it's been a pretty good run for him. Your thought? What was his reaction? Because he seems to be a great personality.
Yeah, he's just super excited. I don't know what else to tell you.
So you were injured last year, is that correct?
I guess kind of. I had to get surgery on my thumb a while back. So, yeah, that kind of played a role in it, yeah.
How hard was that to play through that, and was it difficult to do that? And where is that now as far as the health or the percentage of health of your thumb?
Yeah. The hardest thing was just gripping, trying to hang on to those defensive linemen, but I'm back at it now. Surgery went good, and recovery time was quick, so it's nothing crazy.
So, Campbell, what's kind of your timeline as far as this semester goes? Kind of how all does that work as far as your transition and making a move? What kind of have the coaches told you as far as getting that ball rolling, and how does that look?
Yeah, I'm just wrapping up finals right now, and then I'm either going to do a little mini-semester and take a class or two here in January. But the plan is to be up there and be ready to go by January so I can get enrolled in classes and everything.
So you'll be here in whenever the semester starts here until you'll be a part of spring drills.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So how often did you talk to Dave Aranda?
We chatted a little bit. He was also one of the coaches that we called when I decided to commit. But we've chatted a little bit.
All right. So I asked you what Eric Mateos' reaction was. What was the reaction from Dave Aranda?
He was super excited. I mean, from what I know about him, I mean, yeah, he shows emotion and he shares it with you, but he just really, I could tell he really just cares for us and really is going to put his best foot forward and try to help me through this whole process.
So, Campbell, what's kind of the mess? I mean, you just mentioned, finishing up there in Provo and then making the move, but what was kind of the message during your recruitment from the coaches in terms of just the expectations and the importance of you and what you could help do for this team starting next season?
I mean, one part, I'm definitely a older guy in college playing football still, and I mean, Baylor's losing all 5 of their starting O-linemen, so I think trying to come in, trying to build a relationship with my teammates. I mean, just along those lines, trying to help the guys around me, but also do my best and try to succeed.
How much can you, now that you're a part of this class, now that you're a part of the transfer portal committee to Baylor, can you also then help recruit others?
I don't know. That's a great question. I am not sure.
Do you feel confident in your sales ability to do that if called upon?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, trying to win a championship, so try to get whoever we can,
Campbell, Jake Hatch, who covers a lot of everything sports in Utah, sent me a text last night after your commitment. He said, Baylor's getting a good one in Campbell Barrington. He's really talented and should add to their offensive line. He was battling, starting at right tackle in training camp, saw some action, and then broke his thumb in practice, and, of course, had to have some surgery. And so you come with, obviously, some credentials. When you do go into the portal, what is that discussion like with the current team, with Kalani Sitake or whatever the head coach or position coach at Brigham Young like?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something hard and something they don't want to see, but I really appreciated the support that Kalani gave me and how much they care for us and how much they want to see me succeed, even though it may not be at BYU.
What was your final in today?
My final was in global supply chain management.
That's relevant.
Chain.
That's relevant over the last year or two, huh?
Lee, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you said you had a presentation coming up here in just a few minutes. So what does that entail?
That entails around the same thing. A lot of it's kind of like a situation where we're moving this company and we got to figure out all the logistics, all the sourcing, all those different aspects, and just give a presentation on why we did what we did.
Is there any comparison to what you learned and what your final was in and being an offensive lineman, learning, the wide zone, but guys who pull or this and that, anything there at all? Any kind of relationship between the two?
I don't know. I'm sure somebody could come up with some relationship. I don't know. That's a good question.
All right, Campbell, congratulations. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Look forward to covering you when you get on campus this spring, and also good luck with your presentation this afternoon.
Appreciate it.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Campbell Barrington, a lineman from Brigham Young, part of the Baylor game this past year when Brigham Young won, what was it, double overtime? And then, of course, the game that was in Waco when Baylor won back in 2021. They need quality offensive linemen. They had a lot coming back, and in the end, was that the best position group they had in the end this year? I mean, is there any question that was their best position group?
Well, they need to have a second best position group to compare it to, quite frankly. I mean,
That was my question. Yeah, that's why I brought it up. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm going off that. I think running backs would be probably up there, I guess, a close second. But, it'd be O-line for sure.
I don't think you could – I think you could only – that's probably the biggest problem with the team was it was more this guy had a good year, this guy had a good year, but did the other player in its position – necessarily do that? Dylan Doyle had a really good year. Did the rest of the linebackers? That's kind of how
they were supposed to be part of what should have been the strength of the team, the offense and defensive line. In the end, after what all we saw with the one bowl game coming up in a week, there was no question that had to be the position group, and that's why I brought it up. I didn't mean to that's why I brought it up. There is no number 2. I don't think there is.
No, there's not. That's what I was getting at, was that there's really not a strong number 2. That's what I was joking about. It's something that's obviously got to get fixed by next year, and that goes without saying, I know, but there's just a massive drop-off, and, that's why the season turned out the way that it did, and why they're sitting here fighting for a 7th win as opposed to a 9th or 10th win or whatever the other expectations might have been, depending on who you ask. But, it's good to land him. It's good that he's an older guy. I don't think a broken thumb, even though he had surgery on, it's like some massive injury to have to overcome, really. So I don't worry about that at all when it comes to him, getting here and being able to play and be healthy. I mean, that's a drop in the freaking bucket, quite frankly, for an O-lineman, because at least it doesn't sound like it's hanging off by a thread or anything. I mean, barring that, that's part of the deal. So, he's going to have some age to him. They need that, and a bit of experience and some familiarity. So I think all that should, play into their favor, and he can't be the only one. I mean, as we know, there's going to have to be some more guys joining him. So whether he feels like a recruiter or not, I'm sure that, they'll be leaning on him to at least chime in when needed to, give a little pitch to a O-lineman here or there, or anybody else that they might be looking at through the transfer portal. But I do have breaking news here. Mississippi State, obviously reeling from the passing of Mike Leach, and announced yesterday that they were going to be continuing on to play in their bowl game, despite the fact that there's a lot of grieving and all of that going on. But not only are they going to be playing in their bowl game, but they are going to be playing with a new head coach. They've gone ahead and promoted interim coach Zach Arnett to permanent head coach. So Mississippi State defensive coordinator Zach Arnett has agreed to terms per Pete Thamel to make him the school's next head football coach, expected to receive a 4-year contract that has not been signed yet, but that will obviously be expected to be signed here shortly. And so, taking the interim label off before even coaching a game. Zach Arnett, your new Mississippi State head football coach.
He went to New Mexico. He's at San Diego State for most of his career, almost a decade, a GA, a linebackers coach, defensive coordinator. Mississippi State the last 3 years, including this one, and now presented as again, promoted Rocky Long type connections in his career.
And I think that this is really good for Mississippi State, just because, I know it's very soon, but I think the team needs stability. They need something moving forward, because I think the last thing you want if you're Mississippi State is not only they have to grieve the loss of a coach, but now they have to sit around and wait through a coaching search. And with everything that's going on, transfer portal and all that, you don't want people to make decisions out of grief and loss. You want them to be able to make it in a clearer headspace. And that grief is going to last for a long time with a lot of these players. So being able to make that and stabilize and solidify for the guys that are there, I think is a really, really good decision on Mississippi State's part.
Ross Dellinger, among others, with that story. We appreciate that. And so Mississippi State has filled – not the void, but filled the position with the Zach Arnett being promoted from interim to the official head coach at Mississippi State. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. They just came up with a lot of different values on Jeep and also on Ram this holiday season. Great selection of new cars and trucks at Alan Samuels. Save big during the Big Finish sales event. The new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star trucks, total values of $6,250, plus $500 in bonus cash to first responders. Go by and see what you want. Test drive a Ram, continue to win award after award. And if they don't have exactly what you want when it comes to what they have in stock, they will find it for you because of their networking, because of all of what they have when it comes to dealerships throughout the country. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Again, the Big Finish sales event and the opportunity, a great opportunity for the 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star truck. This, of course, Allen Samuels in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84 in the Waco area.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22-pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16-pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12-pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8-pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
By the way, Patrick Cheney, who we brought up earlier in the show, has joined the chat, and some of you told him we brought him up. He was the one that wrote the great letter to us late last night. Patrick, great to have you on. Paxton brings this up in the chat room. Baylor having to play on the TCU field for the bowl game. That is not fun, I'm sure, for Baylor fans and or the football team. Glad to be a part of a bowl game, but this surely was not what you ordered back with what you had and what you thought you were when the season began back in September. That's tough. That's and I saw it. I don't know what this is. There's an argument about, or there was concern or some confusion about what side of the field they're going to sit on, the home side or the visiting side, but they're the home team, but they're going to sit on the other side. But yeah, that's not something that probably was. You heard Mac Rhodes' frustration earlier in the week.
Yeah, but again, win more games.
I
win more games. Or from the fan side, I mean, some of this is not completely on them just because it's not a very big alumni base, but when you have a chance to sell an allotment for anything, sell out that allotment, and then maybe that changes. Look, they were up against it with Oklahoma going to that Cheez-It Bowl. I mean, that there was no way that the Cheez-It Bowl wasn't going to play every single thing they could to get Oklahoma and Florida State in that game. That's what they wanted because that's two big brand names. There's nobody else that was available to them at that point of them picking that would have made the game as exciting, especially for a middle-of-the-rung bowl game that it is, as that would be, at least as far as selling it. Now, we don't know how the game's going to turn at all. Bowl games are so hard to put your finger on right now, but that's what they wanted, and so Baylor suffers because of that. Kansas was going to get a bit of a bump this year because their fan base was going to be thrilled to go to any bowl game they could have. Heck, I'm sure the Bahamas Bowl was like, hey, can we actually get Kansas here? Because maybe people will actually show up to the game as opposed to just giving the teams a free 4-day trip to the Bahamas, because that's essentially what they're doing. The stands are empty. So the Liberty Bowl kind of hurt there. And then I think everybody's pretty relieved that they didn't wind up in Phoenix. So, what's the next best thing? This is where they're at. And it's certainly awkward and kind of strange that you're playing on your biggest rival's field for your bowl game, but at least you're in one. And maybe, like I said before, you can get used to maybe winning a game there once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's massively disappointing. I'd rather go just about anywhere else. I mean, send me to Shreveport, send me to Houston again, send me to anywhere. But, Fort Worth's great as a town, but to play at Amon Carter sucks. I mean, that's no two bones about it. I don't think anybody's fired up to play there except for maybe Army, Air Force, and that's something that you're going to have to deal with is that, that team on the other side is excited to be in a bowl game, and they know what a big deal would be to win 10 games, and they know what a big deal would be to beat a Big 12 team. So I think Army's going to be ready to play, and even if those things I just mentioned weren't out there, 10 wins, beating a Big 12 team, I mean, that's still, it's still a team that's going to be very disciplined and is going to want to, control the football and run it down your throat and keep it away from you so that you don't have many opportunities for Blake Shapen and company to do much of anything with it. So they're going to, have a great game plan, I'm sure, and be a really tough challenge for Dave Aranda, who's working a bit shorthanded with staff because of the couple moves made a couple weeks ago. So, he's also being more of the defensive coordinator than he typically would be during a week like this. You got somebody else coaching safeties now. You've got somebody else running special teams now. So, this is an important game. I don't think the location should take away from the importance of not only the challenge of who they're playing, but the flip side of what it would be like to lose this game and be 6-7 and lose, 4 straight to close the year. And, no shame in losing to Air Force per se, but they're not at a level where they should be losing to Air Force right now. I mean, just as a program, that would be a massive step back from last year. I mean, any ground that they gained kind of almost wiped out, quite frankly, if they were to finish 6-7, losing to Air Force at TCU Stadium. I mean, come on. I mean, there's no way to spin that positively in any way, shape, or form. This is, to me, in so many ways, there's a lot of throwaway bowl games, but I almost feel like this is a must-win for Baylor, and it's not, because they could lose this game and not many people are going to think about it too much beyond, the final result. But I do feel like it is one for their offseason and just their kind of morale that they do need to win this game. And it stinks to play where you are, but that's just part of the deal. And next year, go win games and ensure that you're not sitting there at the back of the pack waiting for a phone call because, you had to be thankful that somebody eventually gave you a call this time around because you limped into the finish of the season that had you won, beat Texas or not dropped 3 straight the way that you did, you beat TCU. You're certainly not in the Armed Forces game. You're in a much better game than that, but you did. You lost 3 straight, and here you are. So nobody to blame but themselves, really.
Yeah, and I've been kind of racking my brain about how this game's going to go. I do think, on the surface you look at it, and Baylor has a weakness on defense of stopping the run all year. I mean, they didn't really do it, except for the fact that at least consistently. Consistently, like they didn't do that consistently, and this is all that Air Force does. I mean, they've had games where they didn't throw a pass at all, which I doubt will be this game. I think they'll probably sneak a couple in there because I'm pretty sure that Baylor's going to play everybody up and in the box and hell-bent for leather to stop the run. But I do think having Dave Aranda calling the defense for 2 weeks of practices, 15 total practices beforehand, will work out fine for them. I don't think their issue is going to be scheme or stopping or figuring it out because it's all they have to think about for the duration of the bowl season. I think it's just going to be the want to that they didn't have week to week throughout the season.
All right, Baylor allowed 137.6 yards per game on the ground, which nationally, according to NCAA.com, ranked number, where was that? 44th in the country. Air Force, how about this? They run the ball. They also are good against the run. They allowed 99.8 yards per game on the ground. Now, they'll face a team that likes to run the football too. And what Baylor has, depending on what, of course, they do, but that's kind of an interesting twist. By the way, Navy was like number 6 in the country. That's an interesting. Again, it was the style of play. Georgia was number 1. Other teams in the Big 12 ahead of Baylor against the run, Texas was 29th this year against the run. Heck, Texas State was 21st. Iowa State, 17th, had a hell of a defense this year. They couldn't do anything else, but they surely had a pretty good defense. Georgia, James Madison, Michigan, South Alabama, Marshall were 1 through 5 against the run. Steve Robertson covers Mississippi State. Craig just had the note about Zach Arnett being promoted from interim to the permanent head coach for Mississippi State. A lot of things are going on. I just sent a note to him. He's going to join us next on Zach Arnett. And he had a couple of notes, and I saw this in the chat room, that teams had already started trying to poach Mississippi State players. Couldn't there have been a little bit of a time lapse there, like a little bit of time, a little bit of time? That's next with Steve Robertson. He'll join us on 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street in Waco. It's holiday time. That means holiday parties. That means holiday gifts. Well, if you're going for the, say, bourbon lover in your life, nobody has more Texas-sourced bourbons than Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Balcones, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers. All those are there. Great whiskeys that they have there. As a matter of fact, I might need to take a stroll through there this weekend and see some of the newer varieties that they have, because if they've got a brand of it, they've got all the varieties of it, unless they're sold out of it, which happens quite a bit because there are runs on things in that world. They have the best selection of craft beer. So you've got a craft beer fan in your, gift-giving circle, then you can go and load up kind of a bunch of different craft beers that they have there. You can kind of give them a variety pack of what they have. And just great customer service, speedy drive-through window, and available on DoorDash. So if you're at the party and forgot something and don't want to leave, you can DoorDash it from Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank. Find out more on Instagram.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Bach, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Williams has time against the 4-man rush. Backpedaling, scanning, now running out of time. Circling back. Joystick on the move again. Are you kidding me? Caleb Williams dancing, cutting, mesmerizing run by the quarterback. Finally dragged down at the 20. It's a highlight reel tonight.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We start this 4 o'clock hour. Steve Robertson covers Mississippi State, genespage.com. It's a 247. And I had somebody in the chat room say that Steve had made a comment about people were already starting to look at Mississippi State's roster in this, which has been a brutal week because of the loss of Mike Leach. And Steve Robertson joins us now on 365 Sports. Steve, is that true that other teams were starting to try to poach the roster?
Well, I don't know if we can tie it back to
teams with evidence just yet, but some third parties, some of these mentors out here that approach some players from what I understand. And I'm looking into it. And if we get any names and evidence, we'll make all that stuff public. And if anybody's involved in that, they're a disgusting human being. I understand that business goes on, but Mike Leach's death was just announced yesterday. And I understand the college coaching profession doesn't always have great guys involved in it, but this is just completely tacky. And if anybody's involved in it, we're going to make that information public.
Steve, Zach Arnett elevated to head coach permanently. This is a move that, while quickly, probably they needed to do this for the team, right? For these guys to not have to not only go through losing a head coach, but having to sit through a prolonged coaching search and wondering what their futures are going to be in Starkville.
Absolutely. And it was the right call. And to be honest with you, I mean, in some respects, he's kind of been the unofficial coach in waiting. Zach Arnett was going to be a head coach. There was little doubt about that. And former athletic director John Cohen had told me on multiple occasions, he goes, hey, when Leach decides to hang him up, and there was no sign of that happening anytime soon, just so you guys know, he felt like we already had the guy in hand in-house with Zach Arnett. So the move is not surprising. National Signing Day is next week. And then, of course, you've got this, the potential tampering stuff. And so this gives Zach and the staff a chance to settle the roster and also put this recruiting class to bed. But also, too, you begin to think, with Coach Leach passing, you begin to focus now on the living. And there's a staff of assistant coaches that, a week ago thought everything was great. Things are turning in the right direction to now wondering if they're even going to have a job. And there may still be some attrition on the staff, but the reality of it is this is the move that makes sense for Mississippi State. It's probably a move that we're having to make earlier than we expected due to circumstances, but it is absolutely the right decision. And Zach Arnett is a brilliant coach, and I have no doubt that he'll do a great job.
For those that don't know much about Zach Arnett, outside of, as a younger guy, a defensive-minded guy, what would you kind of give us a sort of Cliff's Notes on what to expect as far as his traits, his personality, and things like that?
Well, I had a Mississippi State administrator call me Monday night when, we'd all kind of come into grips with the fact that Mike Leach wasn't going to make it. And they said, what are your thoughts about Zach Arnett if we decided to make that move? And the thing that I thought was most important is he has the respect of the locker room. And when you have that, you have everything. His kids play exceptionally hard for him. He is a very hard-line coach that believes in competing at the highest level. And that's what guys want. They want to be coached. They want to get better. And I think in 3 years, Zach Arnett has shown that he can coach his guys up on that side of the football. And, who he decides to hire as an offensive coordinator, that's the big step right now. And I'm sure he'll have a defensive coordinator, and perhaps they promote Matt Brock from inside. I think that's a big part of it, too, is just kind of how you get everybody placed. But, we'll see some comings and goings. But the reality of it is Zach Arnett kind of fits the value system and the profile of Mississippi State as a very blue-collar, hardworking person.
Steve, you had the week that we've seen since, Sunday night with Mike Leach, and then yesterday early morning, we had the story that he passed away. We've talked to a lot of different people about him. What was the week like for you?
Absolutely miserable. And Sunday morning, I got a text from a donor that said, hey, there are emergency vehicles outside of Mike Leach's house. You know what's going on? And so I began making some phone calls, and people say, well, he's still kind of dealing with, the final remnants of that bout with pneumonia. Could be a breathing treatment situation. He's had some shortness of breath as of late. Could be connected to that. And then within an hour, I started getting reports that this situation is very serious, potentially life-threatening. And at that point, they were discussing airlifting him to Jackson, which is our capital city, and much better medical facilities there. And at that point, you're just hoping that he can come through. And then you start getting more details about kind of his condition. And it really seemed like a hopeless case. And Mike Leach was my friend. He wasn't just somebody that I covered. And I kind of crossed my own professional boundaries with Mike because, I always tell my staff is, these guys are not your friends. You got to keep them at arm's length so you can be objective about them. But Mike was so engaging, and he showed such an interest in other people. And I've shared this with so many people. The day after the Egg Bowl, I drove 17 hours to go be with my wife, who's working out of state for a couple months. And I've been absolutely miserable without her. And so he called me a couple days later, and he's like, hey, what's going on with the bowl game? What are you hearing? Just kind of catching up. And I said, well, Coach, I'd love to come by and visit with you, but I'm out of state. And he's like, oh, well, where are you? And I told him, I said, with my wife, and just kind of enjoying some downtime with her. He goes, hey, let me talk to her. I need to let her know what a good guy she has. And he gets on the phone with her, and he starts talking about how much he loves and respects me and what I do for Mississippi State. And he says, hey, I'm sorry you couldn't make it home for Thanksgiving, and I want you to know that we won the Egg Bowl just for you. Who does that? It's he's just an amazing guy. And then he gave us some restaurant recommendations because he's so well traveled. He's eaten everywhere and been everywhere. And 2 days later, he texted me to see how the meal was. It's like, and I've done my best over the course of the last 3 days to kind of illustrate that. People think about him being this cartoon character and this mad scientist. He may be the most genuine person I've ever known.
I think that's the best description one of the better descriptions we've heard him in the last couple of days. And, people from everywhere that's covered him have had very emotional responses to that. And that is the rule in our business, right, Steve, is you're not supposed to be friends. But Mike Leach just didn't seem like he cared about labels all that much of coach, reporter, this and that. He was kind of a student of life and someone a Renaissance man.
Well, and not only that too, but there are a lot of people out there that are in love with what they know, and they can't wait to tell everybody. And Mike had some element of that. He loved to perform and entertain and kind of be the center of attention. But one-on-one with him, he really wanted to know about you, what made you tick. And I've been clean and sober now 31 years and 4 days, And so recently he had called me and he said, hey, I'd like to come by the office if you got some time. And he goes, I just want to know your story. How does somebody stay sober that long? What's the key to long-term recovery? And I don't think it was really an issue for Mike. I think he just kind of wanted to know what made me tick. And that's the thing. He just pulls you in because he has such a genuine interest in you and what's going on with you. And the very first time I interviewed him, he interviewed me for 30 minutes, kind of knowing my story, my background, and my family, and how I kind of came to be in Starkville and become a Mississippi State person. And it's just one of those situations where you think you know somebody, and there's so many people that told me, Steve, you're the luckiest guy in America because you get to cover Mike Leach every day. And I did not understand what an honor and privilege that was truly going to be until I got a chance to spend some one-on-one time with him. And one of the last things, it's amazing. Like Saturday morning, I get up, take my dogs outside, and I grab my phone. I've got texts from Mike Leach, and it's a list of 6 places you have to stay in New Mexico. And it's like, I told my wife, I got all emotional thinking about this when the reality of the situation kind of unfolded. I said, there he was in the last full day of his life at 3:26 in the morning. He could have been thinking about recruiting, could have been thinking about the bowl game. He could have been thinking about staffing. He was thinking about me and you and what he could do to help us have a better time the next time that we're together. And that's just a story that I think is important to share with people just because of the fact that he was such an endearing person. And I don't know that aspect of his personality was really promoted that often.
Well, Steve, that's an incredible story, man. That really is. And congratulations on the 3 decades clean and sober. That's an incredible feat, man. It's really, truly a great thing. So congratulations on that. I guess I saw the memorial service next Tuesday. Is that correct?
Yeah, 1 o'clock at Humphrey Coliseum, and it's going to be open to the public. And I want to take one more quick story that before we go.
Sure.
Kind of related to recovery. And, Leach is like never cares about anything. Like he's never worried about optics or anything like that or what he just does what he wants to do. And so one day I'd asked him, I said, Coach, let's get a picture together, and I was at practice that day and wanted to show my kids, because, it's just life today. You document everything. And so I had on a Lily and Act shirt, which is one of my favorite bands, and I'm friends with those guys. And so before we take the picture, Coach is like, hang on, I got to see what you're wearing. And I was like, Coach, it's just a band shirt. And he looked it over, and he goes, well, I guess it's okay. I said, what are you looking for? He goes, well, I can't just have my picture taken with somebody wearing a legalized marijuana T-shirt. I got to be careful what I'm endorsing here. And he said, so I just want to make sure that I'm safe to have my picture taken next to you. And I was like, I joked about that today on social media. It's like, that sounds so silly, but it's like he was such a guy that didn't really care. He was really just kind of getting my goat a little bit. But even then, he was kind of cognizant of that sort of stuff about, maybe this isn't the best of decisions. And I used that image when I wrote the story, My Friend the Pirate, which is very difficult to write because, at that point, I know that he's passing away and you're recounting all these wonderful memories. And it's just, I wish we had been friends longer.
Yes, Steve, you told your story. We had somebody on yesterday that told the story about how he just reached out to make sure that their trip was great. Just randomly did it. That you just validate everything that we've heard throughout the week, which is the best part about, unfortunately, a horrible story, is how much now people know the kind of person Mike Leach was outside of the football coach. Zach Arnett, he's kind of young in the coaching business. He played at New Mexico. I think he was under Rocky Long's staff for a while. The connections there as well.
Well, what's interesting about that, too, is when Leach got the job, he tried to hire Rocky. He tried to get Rocky to come out of retirement. He told me before Rocky Long is the best defensive coordinator in the history of college football. And so he couldn't get Rocky to come out of retirement, so Rocky recommended Arnett, who had never been a coordinator. He had played for Rocky and, of course, had been a linebacker coach and a GA for Rocky. And so he was a long disciple. And so he came highly recommended. So Mike hired him and just kind of gave him the keys to the defense and said, hey, you go run the defense and I'll stay out of your way. He's given him the autonomy to do that. Now he's your head coach. It's amazing how it all kind of comes together.
Steve, thanks for jumping on with us late notice. Appreciate your time. And I know you'll be working on that story about any possible tampering or poaching or whatever. I hope to God that's not true. But if it is, I know you'll find out what it is.
For me and you both. Thank you guys for your time.
Steve Robertson, 247, covers Mississippi State and how things move so fast. And you could hear the anger in a lot of you in the chat room when I mentioned that, as far as him having at least that note. Man, some of you are mad, and you should be.
Well, I want to, again, congratulate Steve on 30 years clean and sober. That's incredible. And cool that Leach was acknowledging that and kind of picking his brain, and what a great number of anecdotes he has to, carry with him and, pass along to people and shed some light on, years down the line. Or like, what was Mike Leach like? Steve's going to be able to sit there and have some great stories to tell family, friends, and just, people in general. But yeah, I do hope that, and I don't doubt that that's true or not. I absolutely 100% believe that. Totally. Not even a question in my mind that there's already coaches doing that. And I do hope they're exposed. It very rarely happens because of one reason or another. Those kind of stories just like, they get muffled and pushed to the side. But this is what I was talking about earlier with NIL, man. I mean, it's exactly what I was talking about. I not taking away from On3. I think I gave them their credit for the work that they do, but my other thing was for anybody who's doing these valuations and where they're hearing the money figures and where that's coming from, that's all great and it's super insightful and it's cool information to have, but this is college football that we're talking about. So, like, how much is not really known or what kind of shady stuff is still going on behind the scenes, especially when you have something like this that's so unregulated. And so, yeah, you might hear a guy's making $2 million, but he could be making $7 million for all we know. And so that's why I find it kind of hard to really get down and like talk about NIL because it's college football. I don't have any hesitance in saying that I think there's still some shady stuff going on, and that is the shadiest of all right there, is going and trying to pluck guys off a roster less than 48 hours after their coach passed away. Like, dude, you are the scum of the earth. You are the scum of the earth, and that's just nothing but bad karma. So you might land that player ultimately, but there's going to be some reckoning along the way. That is just such low-life piece of crap behavior. And you know what? It's not a surprise in this game. I love college football, man. I love it. But there are certain icky aspects of it, no doubt. And that part of it, that desire to just always have that edge, and whether it's recruiting or whatever it may be, that is the downside sometimes. And that's about as low as it gets. That truly is. That person who did that probably has no morals or any bones about it. That's why they would think that it's okay to do that in the first place. But that's disgusting. You are a low life.
Yeah, and here's the thing of it. If you're going to, after all this, when you're through the initial grief stage of the funeral and all that stuff of Mike Leach, and you've played the bowl game and moved on, and you've decided that you're going to move on, I mean, you're going to be there's opportunity for those players to be there anyway, and those schools to call them and
give
get them.
Give it a day, dude.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I mean, damn.
It's not like it's never going to happen if they're not going to do it. Just let them get to that decision, because part of the other thing you're doing is preying on someone who is at a low point.
Yep.
And, I can't imagine this place without Coach Leach. Or I came here because of him. Well, like those kind of things are the things in the moment of when you're absolutely at your bottom of grief that you can make a decision that you regret doing later, or that is just out of sadness and you think, well, why did I do this? I was just really sad.
How about, let's go back, 2015, right, or 16. Baylor signed one of their best classes ever. Not the same circumstances, completely different in a lot of ways, obviously. But, man, as soon as the dark clouds started circling in the spring of 2016, Baylor's class was being poached. I mean, people were after them. And Briles hadn't even been fired yet because that happened in late May. But, man, it started and it never left. And it was to the point where then others who had players who were going to transfer to certain schools, writers and others from various schools, started saying they need to open up this class and let kids leave, which in the end is what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but that's like such totally different circumstances. Like, I don't even like making that comparison in any way. I mean, I get it to an extent, but I mean, that was like somebody involved in some pretty heinous allegations and was on the verge of being fired at any moment because ESPN was running daily shows 2 hours at a time covering the same headlines that were coming from a lawyer. I did find it funny the other day with the Chris Beard thing, like, oh, I know what the police report says, but let's hold on and let's wait. And it's like, well, like anybody could have said anything back then, and it was just taken as out, and it was reported on ESPN as though it was fact. That was that. That was a totally different situation. That was ugly. This is like human being stuff here. This is like just somebody losing their life tragically, unexpectedly, and as the body is still cooling down, the vultures come swooping in tragedy. That wasn't tragedy. That was disgusting. It was a tragedy for the victims, but that was the only part that's even remotely similar was there was tragedy involved. This is a totally different thing.
I understand it's a totally different thing. My point was in college football, as you were saying earlier, there are no guidelines. There is no gray
right, but this
area.
is so much more. That's so much worse right now than that example.
I would say the Venn diagram of it where they do overlap is that no matter the situation and when you should be concerned about something or care about something, there are people who will totally take that thing to the side and ignore it for their own personal gain. So,
absolutely.
Most of the people who made very loud comments on Twitter in 2016 about Baylor and what should happen to them were not concerned about justice for people who were wronged. They were concerned about football players moving from one roster to the other. And in a similar, but in again different circumstance thing, these people are not concerned about the grief of this football player who, look, your coach, even though like many times you may not be particularly close to them, life moves on, but for those 4, 5, 6 years that you are in the program and around it, that's your life. That's your whole life. That's the head coach. That's the guy that sets your life. And to have him taken away very abruptly and not like you can call him and ask him about being fired or like you can have that relationship anymore. He's gone from this earth. He's on to the next event. And it is so reprehensible that you would just be like, well, I hope this kid can help our secondary. There's,
everybody on the chat room, tampering is beyond wrong. Great timely interview. So in agreement, Craig. Agree, Craig. Totally agree, Craig. Those staffers should be fired if in fact true. Great interview. Bingo, Craig. And then Paxton with the very angry face, the emoji. Steve will expose them. I'm not trying to compare 2016 to now. I'm just saying in college football that there's just evil in a lot of ways out there. And it's disgusting, and if Steve Robertson or whoever can find that out. But, Patrick Cheney, totally agree with both Paul and also Craig as well.
It's weird what we decide to care about, when we decide to care about it, and then when you ask, like, why do you care about this? You think it's, just because it can help a thing that I like. Like, you don't care about the sad part before? How it affects people who are like really living it? Okay.
So a coach from another team knows what Mississippi State's dealing with players are grieving and all of that, and they have the ability to pick up their phone and text a player. If, in fact, that proves to be true.
Yeah, there's if you're going to do that, there's probably not a lot of lines you're not going to cross in your life.
No.
No,
of course not. So yeah, I mean, how many seconds went by between the introductory, like, hey man, sorry what you're going through. So what are your options looking like? I mean, how do you make that transition? Like, how scummy do you have to get to, like, to even broach? Like, I don't know. These guys get paid a lot of money to get guys on campus and recruit guys, and maybe that just becomes so much a part of your life that you just lose kind of the human side of things, and it's just the meat market, like Bruce Feldman coined it. But to me, it's not just that, and I think for thousands and thousands of people has been proven over the last 48 hours or so, this isn't just your typical like college football thing. This is something that no one was expecting, and everybody's been kind of caught off guard by, and everybody's been, or in many cases, the majority has been affected to some extent as far as just, whether it be feeling sad or just feeling bad or just, whatever the case may be. But just to prey on those emotions and to think that in someone's brain, as somebody is, still warm and passing tragically, that you're going to go get that cornerback that you need to go on that Big 12 title run or Pac-12 or SEC title run or whatever the case may be for whoever was making those phone calls or sending those texts. I just like that. If that's where your brain goes in the first 24 hours after somebody's, passed away, like I got no respect for that.
Well said. 429. Thank you for the reaction on the chat room as well. The text line, I'm about to dive into that, but we're also about to have Sam Kahn from theathletic.com on. He spent time within the University of Houston football program as they were trying to manage the transfer portal. His story today on theathletic.com, and he is next on 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty can help you feel better, help you perform better, help you maybe feel like you did even a year or 5 or 10 ago. Dr. Kent Petty specializes in trying to find out what you are inside your body, where you are with your testosterone level. PettyClinicalOT.com can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. It's not just if you're 50 or older or 65, or it could be even in your 30s. You never know. Testosterone and father time and all that can be different. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Sleep habits change, focus and energy changes, you're lethargic, there's something wrong, you might even be sore, and you never were. And then on top of that, your sex drive might change. So, contact Dr. Kent Petty, PettyClinicalOT.com, top left-hand corner, phone number and email, tell them I sent you. They then, the staff, will set you up to get your blood drawn, get blood work. He'll look at the results, check your testosterone levels, and a few other things as well. And if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. It'll make you feel better. PettyClinicalOT.com.
The Big Finish sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco, and we're celebrating this holiday season with an incredible lineup of all new 2022 Jeep models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Gladiator, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. Jeep SUVs are known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a 3rd row. Hurry in, find the Jeep that fits your family. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can order it today. Wrap up some of the best deals of the year and drive home today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm
exactly what I want. It keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
One quick note in college football, Iowa State quarterback coach and passing game coordinator Joe Gordon is leaving to become a coach at USF with Alex Golesh, who's now the new coach for the Bulls in Tampa. And I don't mean to be flippant here, but, I mean, Iowa State, of course, their offense struggled, but don't know the connections. But Joe Gordon now goes from Iowa State to USF.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Golesh doing his thing, putting the staff together, and obviously not the greatest year from the Cyclones offense, that's for sure, but I don't think 1 year defines a guy. So, we'll see kind of how the rest of that staff comes together, but that's of note as there's a lot of shifting parts on coaching staffs right now.
Sam Kahn wrote a great story today in theathletic.com. It's not the first time. The transfer portal is open, a day of roster construction at the University of Houston. He joins us now on 365 Sports. How much access did you expect, and how much did you get with this one, Sam?
I was obviously hoping for as much as I could get, as you are with anything like this, and honestly, it was pretty good. I had actually come up with the idea a few days before the portal opened because, we've had the portal around for a little while, but this new transfer window idea is the first time for everybody, where it's not open year-round and you have to have an exception to get in early before December 5th if you're an SBS player. So I said, what's that going to be like for these? Because they're used to guys trickling in for multiple days, multiple weeks, even multiple months over the course of the end of the season and postseason. So I had just thought, hey, Houston's a team that's going to the Big 12. They're trying to build a roster-specific way. And I've got some relationships over there with some of the folks on staff there. I said, hey, would you guys mind if I came and hung out and just saw, what that first date was like, where all these kids are coming to the portal? And they said, yeah. So I was just able to hang around basically in the offices all day from about 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. To get a real close look at how everything went. And, I had pretty good access to it, and it was very welcome. It was very eye-opening because there is a lot that goes into it that even beyond what I had considered, which I don't think I realized how much film these guys have to watch when these guys jump in the portal, how many guys are looking and sorting through in a given day. I mean, we're talking about trying to sort through I think 780 guys went in the portal between FBS, Division I, Division II that first day. I think they probably sorted through about 300 or 400 of them that first day, at least in terms of checking, hey, who's this guy? Where's he from? What's his production? Let's take a quick look at him.
Is how much of that also is, oh, hey, this guy that we recruited before is in that, so we can put him in the this will be easier to figure out stack?
No doubt. No, there was no doubt. Like when Kyron Drones got in, and of course, we knew that one was coming because he had announced a few days before on Twitter that he was going to enter. But when Kyron Drones' name pops in, of course, that's the guy that they recruited out of high school. Hudson Card, who came out of Austin Lake Travis, when he get in the portal, again, they knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when he actually gets in. That's the guy they knew that was coming. And so that doesn't take very long because you've already got college tape on him. You already know you already had high school tape that you evaluated extensively. You probably offered him. And so you know what those guys can do. So that doesn't take very long. That's very simple as, hey, this guy jumps in, get the coach on the phone. Hey, let's call him. If we want him, let's offer him right away. Other guys that they haven't recruited and that they don't have relationships with, those are the ones that they're spending a little bit more time studying.
Sam, is there somebody there going like, hey, we've only got this much room? I mean, where's kind of like the checks and balances as far as roster availability and, the 85 men and all that kind of, I mean, is there somebody just kind of reminding them along the way of, oh, we've already offered a couple quarterbacks, we kind of need to stay pat? Like, how does that work?
Honestly, a lot of planning on the front end. Like Houston had specific needs. They need quarterbacks because they're losing Clayton Tune and they're losing one of their backups. They need defensive backs. And then just like everybody in the portal, if there's a good offensive or defensive lineman in there, they're going to take a look at him because you can never have too many good offensive, defensive linemen. But right now with the situation with no limits on initial counters where you can take as many guys as you want, I don't get the sense that there's a hard cap on. I mean, there is a hard cap because you got to stay under the 85, but they're not necessarily. I think it's not necessarily on the 85. It's more of, hey, we need this many guys at this position, and we need this many guys at this position. Dana Holgerson was very upfront. He said we probably are going to take 2 quarterbacks. So I think it's less about the 85 and more about, hey, here's who we know where we're losing, here's where we're thin, and here's how many of these guys we need. And these are the areas we're going to focus on. At Houston, they probably need some defensive backs. They probably feel pretty good about where they are at linebacker. So that's really, I think, where the numbers game comes in for them.
And am I wrong to think that in your story you mentioned recruiting assistant intern Martin Mariquin, I think is his name? Are guys like Martin, the GAs, others who are a part of like even scouting, film, whatever, are they the MVPs of the transfer portal?
Oh, no doubt, because he's the one sorting through. Martin is the guy, and he's an intern. A lot of these guys on this staff are full-time guys, like Harding Harper, who's their defensive assistant director of player personnel, TJ Randall, their offensive assistant director of player personnel, Casey Smithson, who leads the department. All those guys are full-time guys. I think they've got 5 full-time recruiting staffers at Houston, which is about pretty close or comparable to a Power 5 level. There's you find some Power 5s, maybe even 7, 8, even 9 people on their staff, but there's a lot of full-time people, but there's also a lot of helpers. There's guys like Martin, who's an intern. There's also other people helping with on-campus stuff, but they really are, because Martin's a guy who's like looking at this list, and he's the first one that's like looking, okay, this guy's in. All right, does he have any production? Does he have any tape that we can look at? Okay, does he fit what we're looking for in terms of, does he have 2-3 years eligibility? Okay, he's one. So then he's looking and he's passing it on to the next guy, to one of those other assistant director player personnel, to get further valuation. So there's no doubt, because there's so many names that filter in the portal, and it can honestly make your mind boggle, especially on that first day, because they're just flowing in hundreds within an hour. And so it's hard to sort through all that. So guys like him are invaluable in a situation to keep you organized and on task.
Sam, for a team like Houston in particular, how important is it, and it's hard to do in year one, but they are jumping up a level in conferences, to improve the depth at the bottom of the roster, also through the transfer portal?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that is probably the biggest challenge, is doing it, getting depth guys, so to speak. And I think where you're going to find teams doing that is getting guys from a different level. So if you're a Power 5, maybe you're getting a lower end group of 5 or FCS guy to come up. If you're a group of 5, maybe you're combing through FCS or even Division II to get a guy for depth. But I think ultimately what we're going to find with a lot of programs, the programs that don't recruit at a top 5 or top 10 national level in high schools, I think you're going to find a lot of programs are going to rely on high schools for depth. I think you're going to see that they're going to, obviously you're going to try to recruit the best high school players you can and develop them, but then that's probably going to be the top half of your class. But then the bottom half of your class is going to be those depth guys that you're going to hope to develop and keep on your roster to some degree. And then you're going to supplement those gaps that you find where either it's a recruiting miss or you have a lot of attrition in one position, and you're going to fill that out with the portal. And so I think you're going to find it's going to be an interesting mix depending on where you go. I think junior colleges is going to be an area for that too, because that's an area right now that's getting very overlooked because of how much focus is on the portal, and you can get guys with legitimate FBS tape and legitimate FBS reps. You don't see as many JUCO guys going Power 5, and I think there's some real value there to be had for schools like Houston or even maybe schools like UTSA or North Texas that are in the group of 5 level that maybe they can find some value in a spot like JUCOs that can give you either depth or maybe even some rotational type guys.
Sam, what's just the general feeling you get around the Houston offices? Obviously not the ideal year that they would have loved to have had, finishing 7-5 in the regular season, some bumps and bruises along the way. Just what's kind of the vibe check, if you will, on Holgorsen and the Cougars at the moment?
Yeah, certainly disappointed because I think a lot of people pegged them as a double-digit win team, possibly a New Year's 16 coming in to the year, and to not meet that expectation was certainly difficult. Like you said, they did have a lot of injuries. They lost their best defensive player early in the season, Derek Parrish, and they've lost their starting running back, Holton McCaskill, way back in spring and didn't have him all year. So they definitely had that, but they're going up to the Big 12, and I think that's the one thing is you're going to find Dana Holgorsen, I think, trying to manage expectations a little bit because they struggled a little bit in this last year in the American, and now that schedule is going to get beefed up. You're going to have a Big 12 schedule that you're playing next year. And that's why they're trying to get this roster right because I don't think they want to be in a situation where they're going 4-8 in the first year in the Big 12. But if you don't get the roster right, you could be looking at something like that. That's why it's so important for them to find a quarterback to replace Clayton too. That's why it's important for them to get some of these other guys back healthy and get some more depth on the line of scrimmage. So definitely frustration for Houston at this point, but I think they feel like long-term their plan is still solid to succeed long-term in the Big 12.
I said, I read in the article, there's a guy that's got a monitor. He's got like 4 or 3 or 5 of them. Is it almost like a stockbroker or somebody in Vegas making bets on games at the bar?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I think someone mentioned that. It is almost like a stock ticker because you're just seeing guys flow in, and you refresh that portal, and there's a handful more names that pop in. Handful more names pop in, and then you've got video on one screen, you've got a spreadsheet on another, you got the portal on another, and so it does take a lot of focus and a lot of organization. And like I said, it can kind of blow your mind a little bit if you're staring at it too long. And on that day in particular, I don't think any of those guys went to lunch until about 3:00. Because there was just so much happening throughout that morning. So it can get a little dizzying at times for sure.
Is the website easy to navigate?
The portal?
Yeah.
The portal is, it's very simple. It's like very bare bones. Honestly, you don't really get that much information out of it. It is name, team, school that he went to, and conference that he played in, and then they have some other stuff, like they have like an NCAA ID number, and I think they have like what division they played in, Division I, FCS, Division II, whatever. But that's it. And so that's part of the thing. We were mentioning the intern earlier. He has to go look up what classification he's in, how much he's played, how many years of eligibility he has, and all that stuff. None of that stuff is in the portal. The portal is pretty much just names, schools, conferences, and division. That's it.
We had today Campbell Barrington, who's he committed to Baylor last night. Obviously, had known Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes, and is there much discussion from the coaches? And I know you were talking about more the clock ticking, about those conversations when a player informs a coach they're leaving or getting into the transfer portal?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a race. Like, or if they post it on social media, obviously but this is such, and I've talked to a lot of player personnel directors around the state and around the country about this. The first 7 days are so critical. And honestly, in the first day, is critical. And I think it was probably more so minutes mattered probably even more in the past than they did this time around, because in the past, again, it was a slow or steady trickle of guys. With them all coming in at one time on Monday, I think it did create a little bit of a chance for some schools to take a little bit more time, as opposed to, hey, we don't have to get them in these next 5 minutes. Maybe we can get them later this afternoon, just because everybody's dealing with the same challenge. However, there are certain guys, and one of the staff mentioned this to me, there are certain guys that it's going to be very competitive for, and that maybe they have an idea of where they want to go. But if you don't offer them within the first few minutes, by the time you get to them, if 20 minutes have passed, they may have 5, 6, 7 offers already from other personnel guys, depending on the caliber of that player. And so the minutes can be critical for some guys, but I think there are some instances where you can kind of finesse it a little bit. But in most cases, I would say these transfers, especially the FBS transfers, the Power 5 transfers, you're going to find most of these guys making their decisions within the first week of them getting the portal. It's definitely a race to who can get not just in contact with them first, but who can get them on campus to visit first. Because if you can get them on campus for an official visit, you got a really good shot to get that player.
Could they just wait and just put Texas A&M in the search and wait for all of their transfers to get in the portal and call those guys?
You certainly, I'm kind of wondering when this will stop. We got the 22nd scholarship player jump in there today, Smoak Bowie. So it is going to be interesting. And that's the other thing that's fascinating about this is we're going to have this period until January, and then at January 18th, the portal's going to shut down unless you're a grad transfer, unless your coach leaves, and you have 30 days after that, unless you fulfill one of those exceptions. And then it'll reopen again in May for 15 days right after spring ball. And so this all again on May 1st, we're going to have a bunch of guys, when they check the depth charts of their schools, hey, am I going to play? Am I not going to play? All right, I'm going to jump in the portal and see what's out there. And so we're going to go through all this again in a few months after spring ball ends. And that's, I think, the fascinating part of it. And that's, again, part of the challenge for personnel staff is, okay, how many guys do we get now in December? And what do we end up having to anticipate that we're going to lose in May? And what can we get in May when the portal opens back then?
It's nuts. It's nuts. Sam, thanks for your time. Do you have a favorite Mike Leach story before we let you go?
Yeah, my favorite Mike Leach story was I talked to him a few years ago, retrospective on the Texas upset in 2008, and he was talking about the three-way tie that they finished, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Texas. They all finished top Big 12 South for a three-way tie. And he said, they were having trouble deciding who should go because they had all beaten each other and they all had pretty similar resumes. Of course, we know Oklahoma went on to the Big 12 championship game by virtue of their BCS standings. But Mike Leach's idea was, why don't we decide on graduation rate? He said, everybody likes to talk about student athletes. He goes, but we don't want to bring it up when it matters most. He goes, why don't we set it on graduation rate? And of course, Mike knew at that time that Texas Tech had a better graduation rate for his players than the other two schools did. But that was truly a Mike Leach thing. It was a very unique, very out of the box thought. And like I said, I love talking to that guy. I talked to him a lot over the years. Got to meet him, got to know him. Know a lot of guys that he came up under him. Obviously, we mentioned Dana Holgerson earlier, Sonny Dykes, a lot of others. Truly a trailblazer in the sport, and certainly shaped the way that I view the sport. And man, we're certainly going to miss Mike. I promise you that.
And one of those guys, Eric Morris, you've also got a story out on him as North Texas's new head coach.
That's right. Yeah, Dana Holgerson pointed that out yesterday. How cool was that? That on the day we lost Mike, that one of his proteges got a head coaching job, and that was a great hire, I think, by North Texas. Eric Morris already did a really good job at Incarnate Word. He's a great offensive football coach, and I'm excited.
Sam, I'm not sure if the same AD hired Eric Morris at Incarnate Word that hired G.J. Kinney, but there may be a story there that here they have Morris, who's already now at North Texas, and G.J.'s about to go to Texas State, so they're doing something right down there.
I was thinking about that earlier today, too, and it's not just that. I wonder if there's something going on in San Antonio, because look at what Incarnate Word has done under those two head coaches, and look at what UTSA is doing under Jeff Traylor. And I've talked to a lot of coaches around the state who have said in the last couple of years that they thought the San Antonio region is a little under-recruited in this state. You know, obviously everybody focuses on Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, and East Texas. I wonder if those programs being able to mine that area for talent, if that has really turned that into a growing hotbed for college football, because you see the success those programs are having right now. Obviously, UIW in the FCS semifinals and UTSA with 2 double-digit win seasons and Conference USA championships. I think there might be a little something cooking down there in old San Antonio.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Sam. Great article. TheAthletic.com. Again, the transfer portal is open. A day of roster construction at Houston. You know, earlier someone was, I don't think it might have been what Dave Aranda's going through. Think about what his situation is right now. And he gets paid a lot of money. He's the head coach. He is right now acting defensive coordinator. Yes, he was involved, but he's now not only acting defensive coordinator, he's also a position coach, I'm sure, right? Mm-hmm. Because they don't have anybody at the safeties. Special teams, somebody maybe.
They promote like a GA or something to do. He's not fiddling in every little thing and having to make up for it. They'd probably got a younger guy. Matter of fact, I know they do. They got younger guys on staff that are now like semi-promoted for right now because they have to be able to be promoted to go recruit. Right? You can't be.
No, you have to be one of the 10 or whatever that number is. Yeah.
When you got 2 spots open, then you need guys to go recruit. So I think they've like semi-shifted guys up, and I can't remember the names exactly. I want to say it was I need to look at their staff page, but one name's on the tip of my tongue, and is a guy they brought over last year that I think serving as like safeties coach now for the time being, and they'll make a determination. But yeah, they need those guys to be able to hit the road.
So exactly, he's the head coach. He's the acting defensive coordinator. He's probably also worried about the transfer portal. Who's going, who's coming? What about opt-outs? There kind of is maybe a fact that there might be one of the 2 of those. The game is a week from what? Tomorrow, excuse me, in Fort Worth.
Signing days.
And their signing day is a week from today.
PJ Hall, I think, is serving as like the safeties coach, based on the scuttlebutt. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot, though, on the plate, to your point, and there's a lot, even if you weren't going through all those things, of just the signing day part of it and the transfer portal part of it. And it's weird how it's all kind of come together. And unfortunately for Baylor, you play pre-Christmas. You have your bowl game the day after signing day. And that's just not ideal in any way, shape, or form. But that's what happens when you finish 6-6 is you don't get the ideal timing or the ideal spot on the calendar. But, yeah, for everybody out there, it's a tough little 4-week stretch or however you want to, time it out. But it's definitely a wild December.
It is a wild December, and thanks to Sam Kahn, again, that story is up in theathletic.com's on their site.
So this came down from Twitter today, by the way. This has college football note. It's because this guy was tracking Elon Musk's private plane. And so Twitter now has a policy to where you cannot post private plane tracking data on Twitter.
Well, there goes the college football coaching search.
So at least on Twitter, you're going to have to find another medium to do that on and, code it out on Twitter, I guess, in a way. But there is you can't post that anymore on Twitter. So this private plane, which is not always accurate, by the way.
Most of the time it's not.
Most of the time it's not. This private plane flew to here. Well,
I think that was...
It's like the weather. It's like predicting the weather.
It was more fun. It's still cool in the flight tracker and all of that, but I do feel like it kind of had its heyday a few years back, like when it was really at the height of its powers, with the flight tracker being like the big mystery unlocker. It's kind of faded a little bit, although it's still definitely in service. I saw that for a couple of the coaching searches that were going on. I just don't think it's as much of an illuminating thing as it was when people first stumbled on, like, oh my gosh, you can track these flights and run the plates and, do all of that. I think now schools have caught on to that a little bit, and they can find ways to, private owned planes to try and get around that as best they can. But yeah, that's interesting, and that will have an effect on, the college football universe and how we follow along with coaching searches. That's disappointing.
I think a lot of times that plane might fly to a city that's close. And then, you have the meeting on the tarmac before you decide what you're going to do.
A lot of airport meetings from what we've gathered over the years. A lot of airport meetings, yeah.
Yeah, and, we even learned some of what the Baylor coaching search, some of what they did to fool people, or what they did to, bring somebody underneath. Even that Matt Rule and his wife Julie were flown into Lincoln on a game day because nobody's paying attention to anything. If you want to hire a coach or rob a bank, that's the day to do it, right? In Lincoln or someplace like that. And that backstory of how they slid them in to Lincoln to get to kind of know the surroundings, it apparently made a big, big difference. All right, we are not done. Much more to come. John Machota will join us today at 4:30. He, of 5:30. 5:30. He, of course, covers the Cowboys. And then Paul's Top 5 in 1 hour. Sports tonight, what we do every day. And then at 10:30, from 10:30 to 11:30 on the CW channel, thanks to the great group there and connected to KWTX, Josh Young and company. We appreciate them. 1 week from today, National Signing Day, will be all over that. 1 week from tomorrow, we'll have our pregame show in Fort Worth at Amon Carter Stadium for Baylor and the Air Force Academy. So much to get to, and this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. They have specials right now for hams and turkeys. Just because Thanksgiving's over, that doesn't mean that ends. They have them available inside their store at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. And they put out a bunch of specials on the various select cuts of prime rib, boneless and bone-in. Depends on what size you want, whether it's a 3-pound or 8-pound, whatever. That's a big, big prime rib, by the way, the prime rib roast. They have specials on the various quality of the cut of meat. USDA, of course, approved. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, a bakery and a butcher shop, and they have all sorts of the other knickknacks you need, from chips to pasta to a can of Rotel to whatever you need when it comes to marinades or seasonings and sauces and more. And they have some packages. This is really, really good. The packages that are pre-made, and all you have to do is put them in like boiling water or whatever, and some fantastic soup that you can make from scratch based on what is inside the package. That's something that I wanted to know. Cold beer and cold wine, of course, as well. It is Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
There has been a few of you commenting on the California Board of Regents, the system, and what they are going to decide when it comes to UCLA. And some of you even before the meeting started said they're about to announce that they're going to block UCLA, which would be interesting unless they were having some pre-discussion. But they just started like about 30 minutes ago.
I would love to see it just simply for the reactions to it. I'm not a chaos guy, but I do think it would be far more interesting than the latter or the alternative, which is just, we can't do anything in UCLA, you're going to the Big Ten. That'd probably just, make it easier for everybody to sort of move along. But yeah, I mean, it's just simply from a talking point standpoint and interest level, the blocking would be the much more entertaining and interesting move, but that's the one that I doubt that happens. I just feel like they're delaying the inevitable if they try to prevent this from occurring.
Well, John Wilner, who we know covers the Pac-12 for the newspaper out there, and he's all over the Pac-12. He even said there's like a 1.9% chance that they make any decision that forces UCLA to stand. And I mean, it's I can't imagine the backlash, but it's out there. The story's there. We understand people talking about it, but I cannot imagine that they're going to, unless they were to say you have to pay some of this money to Cal.
Yeah, UCLA's portion of this meeting was supposed to start about 35 minutes ago. Now, who knows if they start on time, if they're going long. Another thing, I've not seen anyone tweet anything from this yet. So, and going to Wilner hasn't tweeted anything about other than it's starting, and that was 90 minutes. That was a couple hours ago. So, yeah, I don't think it's really all that eventful, because if you're going to tell UCLA that they are not leaving, you lead with that. Like, you come and say, look, okay, we've decided, like, right now we're leaning towards not letting you leave, so make the case. No, it's not. I mean, we'd probably know. Now, I've not been to a whole lot of Board of Regents meetings in California, and by that I mean zero. But I just don't think that any of that would make sense, and it would fly in the face of UCLA has the easy defense of, okay, we're in debt. This is going to help us get out of debt, so you tell us what's your plan B. Don't have one? Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, what are they pursuing by keeping UCLA? Just to be able to say, haha, like, I mean, I know it's, a big part of that system, but yeah, I mean, what's it done for them? It's got them, $50 million in debt, and or whatever the actual number is. I'm not trying to throw dirt, but I think I saw tens of millions of dollars of debt, and that could go get cleared up real quick in the new TV deal. But no, you want them to stay home and be a part of mostly, or whatever the Pac-12 TV deal works out to be, that Pac-12 TV/digital deal. I mean, you're going to make them stay for that and make far less money and just go further in debt and be more irrelevant and not have USC even to be a part of now? Like, I mean, yeah, you'd keep the LA market, but at what cost ultimately to your entire system? Whereas with UCLA going and making all of this money, would that not stand to benefit everybody else in the system? Like, am I missing something here?
And then
I think it would be a good thing ultimately in terms of, you know, the financials and the exposure. And now, granted, I'm looking at it from a completely different standpoint than these educators and others are. But I mean, I don't see the benefit to stopping this move.
Well, also, if you're UCLA and they do stop it, what's to prevent you from slowing the Pac-12 deal down to an absolute, like it's at a crawl right now? Like, what's to stop you from helping them at all? Or from not helping them at all and waiting out whenever the terms are that you could leave? So at worst, at best, you'd be delaying the inevitable of UCLA going to do what they want to do in the end.
Do you keep UCLA but you lose Oregon and Washington in the process? Then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because if I'm the Big Ten, I'm like, okay, you want to get petty? All right, Washington. Well, you're now invited to the Big Ten to fill this second West Coast spot, or Oregon, or both of them. And then what's the Pac going to do? Mm-hmm. Well, we still got LA, like sort of, kind of, not really though. I don't know where they're really coming from a position of power other than, you know, obviously there is some authoritative, you know, there's some authority being, you know, the system and whatnot. But, you know, big picture, I feel like this is all politicking and grandstanding and not going to really result in much. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel pretty good that I won't be.
Just the names that are on the chat room, all sorts of different comments from the transfer portal to the Mississippi State, the interview with Steve Robertson, and the possibility that people had contacted players. Even somebody said, what about the players contacting other people? S. Michael DeHart. People that think like that, they were talking about anyone that was looking at the possibility of contacting MSU players have no humanity or empathy.
Yeah, if the players did it, that's one thing. Like, I mean, that's the player. That's his life. It's his decision. It's his choice. But it's an entirely different thing, you know, when it's a coach of another program who clearly knows what's going on and is like, this is the opportunity to go and try and get this safety or whatever, you know, they're looking for. I mean, the body's not even totally cold yet, and you're making phone calls trying to pluck a guy. I don't know how anybody could try and spin that as anything but despicable unless you are just so despicable yourself that you can't even understand or process how despicable that really is. That's my only way of thinking how somebody could excuse that behavior, because it's pretty straightforward and clear that that's pretty disgusting.
Sparsh M, thank you for the super chat. I didn't see a question or comment with it, but we do appreciate the super chat. The super chat feeds the engine as well. We appreciate you. Also, those of you who are watching, if you would hit the like button, we would appreciate that as well. Also, let's see. Well, the story about Leach and some of the funniest things we discussed yesterday, and I know that we had an all-day basic tribute to him. The ones that seemed to get the most feedback on the replay and others was the ones about advice when it comes to weddings, advice when it comes to planning the weddings from across the board, men and or women. Roger to the Dodger. It's over. UCLA's going to the Big 12. Stop arguing about it as far as on the chat. It's going to cost $10 million more for UCLA to go to the Big Ten, but UCLA will make up for that in much bigger TV contract money. From Nerf, I don't know.
They're going to have to pay some. They'll probably have to pay some money on the way out. I could see that. Like, hey, you can leave, but you got to cut this check to the system, you know, as like your exit fee, basically. But outside of that, I don't really know what you're going to do.
But aren't they leaving after the TV deal?
Well, no. I mean, what?
Didn't their media rights up, and it's up?
But I don't think it would be that. It's not necessarily an exit fee. It was. I think Wilner said a tax.
Yeah,
I think it'd be more of a tax.
Sense.
So then you can say like, yes, but you have to agree to X amount of years of this extra money that you're going to get. We get 5%. You know,
like, hey, you pay us. You cut a $15 million check right now. Let's go our separate ways. As simple as that. Like, I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's not a grant of rights exit fee. I'm talking about like a tax for leaving the conference, and that like everybody just goes their separate ways, and you're done with it. But you got to pay some sort of penance.
It's not like the money that Texas and Oklahoma are having to look at and face and decide, and maybe at some point have some sort of settlement along the way. Now, Sean Miller was the head basketball coach at Arizona. He's now the head coach at Xavier. Arizona had been charged with 5 level 1 violations from incidents that took place when he was there, when Sean Miller was there, and they were very good. Miller was facing a level 1 charge that he did not demonstrate and promoted an atmosphere for compliance and monitored his staff within the basketball program. They pursued what is now available instead of the NCAA hammering Arizona or Kansas or Oklahoma State, which they did, Oklahoma State. They went to the independent accountability resolution process over the NCAA infractions. And now thinking about this, who wouldn't? Once they make a decision, no matter if you like it or not, it's over. You cannot appeal it. And basically, Sean Miller, am I right, was cleared of everything.
Yeah. Actually, they gave him a pretty glowing report, so when rules are broken to this level, the person in charge is either complicit or ignorant of it. And one is better than the other, but not like you're getting a merit badge for it, right? So if you're complicit, then yes, you need to be punished. So in this, the committee exonerates him of all those things, and he didn't know about it, but also begs the question, if your coaches are going around doing this, how do you not? Who told them that they could? Or was it like a wink-wink thing? Like, that's where I get confused in all this. I'm not trying to accuse Sean Miller after the fact. I'm trying to make sense of it. Because, again, every time a scandal comes out, you either don't know about it. And look, sometimes if you don't know about it and it's an elaborate plot, I get it. But none of this stuff's all that elaborate in the end of it. And it's not like something that no one knows goes on in college recruiting of shoe companies, especially in basketball, of shoe companies funneling money places. So where in the end of this do I have to feel about Sean Miller? And yes, he did what he was supposed to do according to this committee, but his assistants didn't. Or, I don't know, I'm just confused, and those are my kind of scattershot thoughts on it, but it doesn't come down to innocent and guilty completely to me. It comes down to ignorance or being complicit, and ignorance is only slightly better.
Yeah, I saw Jeff Goodman and many others have followed suit with, Jeff Goodman had a tweet, for example, former Arizona assistant Book Richardson gets a 10-year show cause, and former Arizona assistant Mark Phelps gets a 2-year show cause. Like, that's what their penalties are going to be, but then Sean Miller, nothing.
Walks away.
It just plead ignorance as the head coach, even though we're told over and over again that the head coach is where it starts. He's the head of the snake. He is the top down. Everybody listens to him, but somehow the assistants were just rogue, running wild. Come on, man. College basketball's dirty. We know it's dirty, and the big names always find ways to skate free. Always. Who gets hammered, really? Other than names that you learn.
Oklahoma State.
Well, yeah, Oklahoma State, but who's their big legendary? Maybe it doesn't come down to legendary, but I feel like for all of the legendary basketball coaches, like, none of them ever get hit with anything. It's amazing. Oklahoma State was an exception. I don't know why that was the exception, especially given their case was not that egregious from what, the information was. I don't know. It's the NCAA. It's confusing as ever when it comes to penalties and punishments. Best guess is as good as the next person's as far as what to anticipate when it comes to those things being handed down. But yeah, I don't know. It's confusing how the system works as far as who gets punished and who doesn't, and how a head coach can have multiple assistants getting hit with show causes, but he's just scot-free, hands clean.
It's like the person who has runners selling drugs. You might be the kingpin, and the other guy's
the other guy take the fall.
Jerry Tarkanian, remember, battled the NCAA forever when he was the head coach at UNLV, and then there was a battle with he and forever. He, of course, won national title at UNLV, but remember, he was back and forth with them forever and ever. I think eventually there was a settlement which he received money because he sued the NCAA because they kept trying to hammer him, and he ended up getting a check for $2.5 million, his Wikipedia page, in 1998.
Yeah, so part of this might be my emotions are a little raw. I just finished that 4-part documentary about FIFA on Netflix, FIFA Uncovered, which is really great. You should watch it even if you're not a soccer fan. It's very telling about that. But Sepp Blatter, who was the head of FIFA, all these scandals and all these people have been prosecuted and all these different things, bribery and all that, things that they're trying to get prosecuted, but because guys are in other countries and they can't get them here, all of that's gone on. Sepp Blatter has had no legal punishment in all of this, and every time a corruption scandal would come up, he, as the head of FIFA, would just be like, look, we've got to fix this. We got to fix it. We're going to bring in these people. We're going to fix it. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And then nothing really happened. And then he never technically did anything illegal, and he would just pretend like he didn't know this was going on. And he's even in the documentary, and as, confident in himself as anyone I've ever seen in my life, will say, like, look, I didn't know, and I only care about football, I only care about that. But never did it land on him that, okay, if you're in charge of this and the whole world underneath you is totally corrupt and taking money and bribes and all this stuff, you not knowing, it's terrible.
Yes.
Like, it's terrible that you would not know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's awful.
But that's always been the way out. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. And everyone else underneath of you is serving time in prison, jail, fined, or whatever else.
I mean, we can't say they can't say they didn't get some punishment. They did lose a scholarship. So I don't know how Sean Miller will recover from the lost scholarship, but
it's not even
3 years
him.
probation.
He's Xavier.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So Arizona, however they recover from the one lost scholarship and the 3 years probation. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it definitely feels like there were some lower level fall guys or what have you, but like a Book Richardson. I mean, he already served jail time, 10-year show cause on top of that. And I said NCAA. I mean, this is the IARP that was, the part of their investigation. It's very interesting kind of how these things ultimately shake out. That's why whenever there's a big basketball bombshell in college basketball, I'm just like, okay, let's give it a couple years and let's see if anything actually comes from this. And some assistants got punished. Oh, no, nothing really with the head coaches. Oh, that seems about right.
Oklahoma State. If you're an Oklahoma State fan, Mike Boynton, of course, we saw his emotions the day that came down, tears down his cheeks because of the players and whatever, and they couldn't compete for the Big 12 championship in the postseason tournament. They were denied being in the postseason, which for recruiting purposes is horrible. And I thought Mike Boynton, I love the fact he was raw, he was real, he was transparent with his feelings, and I always had respect for him. I love the way he coaches. But, man, you look back at what happened to Oklahoma State compared to what's going to happen here and or KU, and the fact that they were caught up in all that as well, among some others, it's crazy. But, again, they just might as well just not have rules.
Well, it also feels to me a little bit like the NCAA is trying to make this thing end. Like they're trying to get it off
themselves?
The books. Yeah,
they're doing a good job.
Yeah, but they're trying to, just make it end. Let's just get it off the books.
Well, because it's been delayed so many times, yeah.
Too much time has passed, and in the time that's passed, the thing that the FBI was investigating, we made legal.
Yep. Guys have already served their jail terms.
Yeah.
People went to jail for this. The guy, one of the guys you just hit with the 10-year show cause today after multiple delays after he already served his time. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculously drug-out process. It's a ridiculous body trying to dictate, who's right and who's wrong. It's all just kind of, I think we all know the deal, man. This is all stupid. It's all very stupid. And, Arizona fans, kudos to you that you can now breathe a little bit and just not have this as far as a worry in the back of your head. Not sure how much they worried about it to begin with. But at least it's one thing off your plate. But yeah, I mean, we kind of know the deal when it comes to these sorts of stories, that it's a big nothing burger at the end, unless you're, Book Richardson and you're going to jail for this or getting a 10-year show cause. But there's a lot of other bad actors that get to just keep roaming free, basically.
Bush Hamden is now the offensive coordinator at his alma mater, Boise State. That's where he played quarterback in 2004 to 2008. He's been a lot of different places. Most recently, he was the quarterback's coach and also wide receivers coach at Missouri. He was an offensive coordinator with Washington. University of Washington, has coached in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons. He is back at Boise State, his alma mater, hired as their offensive coordinator. That was just put up just a few minutes ago. Again, earlier today, France beat Morocco 2-0. They'll now take on Argentina in the World Cup final. The Big Ten, the California board, the system having their meeting now, just started about an hour ago. Just wanted to mention it because a couple of you continue to ask what was the final decision. That might be an all-nighter, so to speak. When we come back, we'll hear from John Machota. The Cowboys made some moves, added some people, lost some players to injury, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, not only for, if you're looking for a new vehicle, but also if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, and also if you're not even looking for a vehicle, you're just looking to get your current vehicle tuned up or get it fixed up. They can help you out with that as well, as they are the people that you can count on, and they're the people that I've counted on a couple of different occasions to get my vehicle fixed up when it's needed some repairs and needed some dings cleaned up. They do a great job, even though I didn't buy my car from there originally. Right now, if you're looking for a truck or an SUV, they've got gifts that can't be beat with dozens of Sierra trucks and dozens of SUVs. The biggest inventory they've had in 2 years right now. Get 3.9% interest for well-qualified buyers on GMC Sierra and GMC Terrain trucks in stock, and 3.99% financing on Buick Encores, Buick Envisions, and Buick Enclaves. And for example, with the Sierra, that offers the best-in-class towing, unsurpassed strength, premium comfort. Again, 3.9% financing right now. Current GMC or Buick owners also get a $2,500 loyalty rebate on qualified GMC Sierra trucks. So if the Sierra's on your mind, keep that in mind and head on over to Richard Carr right now to take advantage of those great deals. But if you're not looking for something new, even though they do have the biggest, newest inventory that they've had in a couple of years, they've also got dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock under $20,000, affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance, quality vehicles ready to reliably take you on the road this holiday season. And if you're just simply looking to, as I mentioned earlier, drive your car or truck longer, you're not looking to buy, you're just looking to fix, well, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road. Just head on over to the website, richardcarr.com, check out their service specials, and you can also set an appointment for quick and reliable service. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22-pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16-pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12-pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8-pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy old world pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Now an unexpected score to start the fourth quarter. Upset-minded Aggies up a touchdown on number 5. And how about more? Moose Muhammad, one-hander, my oh my!
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Yeah, those catches that Moose Muhammad made in that game in the win against LSU were both dynamic and obviously with Evan Stewart back and the players they have despite so many people leaving for the portal. Now, yesterday, Jacob had this. This is another yet a part of a Mike Leach memory. This is at the Egg Bowl, I think, press conference.
Mississippi State. Obviously, I coached at Southwest Junior College, and I'm very, very honored to be the coach at Ole Miss. Dad and mother live in Tupelo.
Just a constant. He's just... The guy lived life and lived it well.
Yeah. I keep hearing people keep sending stories or replying to stories or writing them. I don't think there's been a coach I know that's affected more journalists than Mike Leach.
Can't think of anybody.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's wild.
Yeah, I've mentioned Lane Kiffin a couple times as somebody who kind of has some of the character kind of traits of a Mike Leach. Not exactly alike, but just in terms of not being the status quo, very vanilla head college football coach that says kind of the same things over and over again. Lane does have some of the Mike Leach like trolling ability and just some, he's quirky in a good way. So yeah, that was a fun little interaction. I remember that well. And can't believe he didn't get fired for touching someone's mask during that COVID stretch that we were in. I'm surprised there wasn't more of a backlash, but I just think that most people watching that realize it was all in good fun. But especially now, that's a fun clip to look back on. But that was funny at the time too, and it's just a real shame. It really is. But I think that the Leach family is probably somewhat comforted, as caught off guard as they may be, by the fact that he was so beloved and I'm sure it's been nice to see the tremendous outpouring of support over these last few days.
It's been truly remarkable. One quick note.
I got a quick note, too. We were talking about the college basketball stuff, which I sort of rolled my eyes at all of that because it is what it is. But Rick Pitino did get hit, not so much because of the NCAA as much as Louisville screwed that up a little bit. But he was a guy who obviously got affected by the big mess. But outside of him, really, it's a lot of assistant coaches going to jail or getting show causes or things like that.
Had his also that was hookers.
Yes.
You know, like that thing, and that's what got Hugh Freeze was not, the recruiting stuff. It was, hookers and not a thing that gets you to keep your job. It got Mike Price too. So those things will get you fired. So that's more of their personal life spilling over, because if you take that little seedy element out of it, they're just cheating. When it
says
they're just breaking NCAA rules.
Prostitution scandal is above your headline. Yeah. That's a lot harder to deal with.
Pitino's coaching now.
Yeah.
Bruce Pearl had a show cause. He's, of course, had success at Auburn. Kelvin Sampson, I think most of his might have been like texting and stuff like that. He's having a great run at Houston. One hell of a coach. All right, when we come back, John Machota, before we do, there's 11 teams. This will take long. Garrett, you don't still have that graphic, I don't think, but this was a note. 11 current Power 5 schools who have not or would not have earned a bid to be a part of an expanded college football playoff since the first year in 14. Mm-hmm. Boston College.
Okay.
Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina State. Northwestern. The highest they ever got was 13th. In fact, they're the highest on this list. Purdue was 14th. Rutgers, 16th. Syracuse, 15th. Vanderbilt, never ranked as far as in the top 25 playoff standings. And Wake Forest finished 14th.
Half of those are who I would list of the teams that have had no shot at the playoff. I would have named half those teams.
Wake Forest surprised me a little bit because they've had a couple years where they're in that 10 to 15 range, but
but we're only going to 12.
This was dating back to even 1998. This is dating back to 1998. 11 Power 5 teams would still be trying to reach, because I kept waiting for, where's Nebraska? But if you go back that deep, in 99, 98, 2000, 2001, they were ranked very high, but never really since that time.
How many? If there was, that
11.
was for 16 teams? 12
this
teams?
is for the 12 teams.
Okay,
12-team college football playoff. It went back to 98.
Yeah, so I'm sure a couple of those will get ticked off if they eventually do the 16 thing, like there's seemingly talk that they inevitably will.
Duke then would be a part of it. NC State, Duke then, NC State, and Vanderbilt were the only ones then would be left on that list.
Not that I would have anything to complain about anyway, because my team's won 3 national titles, but had the 4-team playoff been in existence any of that time,
I know.
I really would not have anything to complain about. I would have no sadness in my life about it.
I know. I mean, there is the downside to it, though. There's going to be that team that inevitably, kind of like Oklahoma in a 4-team playoff, of just getting there every year, and that's great. But, ultimately you do have to win a game to make it really matter. And TCU in this one instance could lose to Michigan, and they'll still get this boon of attention and well-deserved and the spotlight and all that. But if they were to go do that 2, 3, 4 more times and never win a game, then that's Oklahoma basically, and you kind of develop a reputation where it's not even so much an achievement as it is like an albatross suddenly for you that you can't get over that hump. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think Mike Elko sticks around Duke long enough. They're going to find themselves in that expanded playoff sooner rather than later.
He remind you of Stoops at Kentucky?
I haven't really thought about that. I hadn't really thought about comparisons for him. I just think he's a good football coach. And, I think he's doing a great job already. And like I said, the longer he sticks around there, the ACC is not just dominated by Clemson at the moment. I mean, they're still very good, but FSU's coming up now. I mean, we know Miami's trying to get something going, but North Carolina with Mac, you've got NC State's had their success before Leary got hurt. I mean,
and the schedule's about to change. This new form of scheduling, I think the biggest thing it'll do is, you might get a tough draw a couple years, but because of how rosters are changing, you're going to have a year where if you're a Duke and you pull the right teams in that schedule that year, outside of your, 3 ones you're going to play every year, you could easily wind up in the championship game.
All right, when we come back, John Machota covers the NFL and the Cowboys. The Cowboys had some injuries, players gone for a distance, maybe even out for the rest of the year. They also added a new wide receiver and more, and he's next. This is 365 Sports. If you have a family member who likes to stay fit, likes to stay healthy, likes to do workout, and they're pretty committed to it on an everyday or sometimes even if it's 4, 5, or 6 days a week, and they're in town for the holidays, they can go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness for $30 and have a 1-week pass instead of having to join the gym and pay a full month's membership. $30, 1 week, and they could be there for 3, 4, 5, or 7 days. It depends. Maybe they're not going to be around that long, and sometimes you don't want family to be around that long, but some linger, or some have a lot of different places and other people to get to know during the holidays. So if you have somebody coming into town and they've always worried about where they're going to, maybe they can run themselves wherever the neighborhood is, but if they want to work out, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco, $30 for a 7-day pass on Lakeshore Drive, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness.
It's a staggering fact, and one that should give you pause. More than 130,000 trucks drive around Central Texas roads every week, and sadly, as many as 50% of them drive around completely naked, without a stitch of accessory on them. The plight of truck nudity is real. Won't you help? This Christmas, open up your heart to those in need. Maybe a friend, a family member, or maybe it's your truck. Give generously and give them the gift of dignity. An outfit from Pickup Outfitters. At Pickup Outfitters, we're doing our part too. We've extended our Truck Friday specials all the way to Christmas Eve. Like WeatherTech or Husky floor liners, $40 off when you purchase a set. ARE or Lear camper shells, $200 off. Please don't turn a blind eye. Christmas is not the time for a truck to go naked. Give the gift of an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. Fighting truck nudity for 25 years at 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
This holiday season, shop the great selection of new cars and trucks at Allen Samuels in Waco. During the Big Finish sales event, get amazing deals on new 2022 Ram trucks. Designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, Ram trucks give you that first-class feel with luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom, and storage. If we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can build the custom truck of your dreams and order it today. Hurry in, wrap up some of the best deals of the year on Ram trucks at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John Machota, theathletic.com. Cowboys dealing with injuries as they hit the stretch drive. There's 4 games left. They found a way to beat the Texans, and that sure was dicey. But Terrence Steele out. Hankins out for at least what appears to be a month. The rest of the regular season, who knows how long, with the pec injury. John, which of those 2 injuries is the most damning?
Oh, it's got to be Terrence Steele. He was just playing so well for them really all season. You know, it's kind of crazy how everything came together because, you know, a year ago or even entering this season, it was the notion of, wow, how could they get rid of Lyle Collins, and turn to Terrence Steele? And Terrence Steele has just been, exceeded expectations. And so it's not only just losing Terrence Steele, it's that they don't really have an obvious right tackle to fill in. You know, it was one thing when Tyron Smith went down, you were like, well, they just drafted Tyler Smith, they kick him out there, they signed Jason Peters. There's not really that obvious right tackle. So Josh Ball's been working over there, but that hasn't really been the answer either. And I just wonder if Jason Peters can go a full, 60 snaps in a game, and if they feel like he can. And if they don't, are we looking at a rotation at right tackle? I mean, that just doesn't seem like something that many teams would do. But they're sifting through all options right now to figure that out. But yeah, it's got to be Terrence Steele.
Yeah, and even if Tyron Smith comes back, I mean, he's going to come back and be the left tackle, which would make Tyler Smith the left guard. So unless they really wanted to get nuts, and start really moving things around, I just don't see it. Like, kick Zach Martin out to right tackle, play Connor McGovern at right guard. There's too many musical chairs for that to really work well.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't think Zach Martin wants to play right tackle. I don't think that moving Tyron Smith to right tackle, which he hadn't played since, very early in his career, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So I think you're down to Josh Ball or Jason Peters, and Jason Peters hasn't played it in a long time. So it's going to be interesting to see the way they handle this. But I will say, I feel like we have to give them a benefit of the doubt. And the only reason I say that is because of the fact that none of us thought Terrence Steele would be as good as he was, and didn't think that he should have gotten the opportunity that he did, and he was great with it. We also probably didn't think that moving Tyler Smith into left guard and then back out to left tackle, that was going to be a great move, and it worked out way better than we thought it was going to. So I think Joe Philbin, their offensive line coach, and Mike McCarthy deserve a little bit of credit, Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, and deserve a little bit of the benefit of the doubt to try and figure this thing out and make it at least stable. I mean, it's tough, I think, sometimes because we look at how dominant the Cowboys' offensive line was, 14, 15, 16 in there. And so this isn't going to be that type of offensive line, but I think that they can come together with some type of a plan to where it's at least sufficient and solid, and not an area where, every week we're looking at it as this is one of the weaknesses on the team.
So they signed T.Y. Hilton, a veteran, who used to be, I don't know if he was elite, but a very high-level wide receiver. Of course, we know that they were at least kicking the tires of Odell Beckham, but he wouldn't let him kick his tires. How much and where does he stand? I think the Cowboys' wide receiver room seems to be really good. Where does T.Y. Hilton fit in?
So it looks like how you would – it's really going to be on third downs and in the red zone, I feel like. You're confident in CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, and even Noah Brown's played well. But I think T.Y. Hilton offers you something different in terms of, maybe a guy that plays a little bit more in the slot, plays a little bit more in the middle of the field, very quarterback friendly. That's the thing everyone says about him. He can find the zones, find the openings, in zone defenses, and he should be. Here's the thing: like when he was in Indianapolis and he was having his great years with Andrew Luck. I mean, he was seeing other teams' number one corners. He's not going to see that in the Cowboys' offense, and so in a way, I think it's very similar to when they had Cole Beasley, and even Randall Cobb in previous years, were just very quarterback friendly guy that. Yeah, he probably doesn't have the speed that he did earlier in his career, but because of the veteran savvy that he has and that what they'll be asking of him, they won't be asking of him to be playing on every offensive snap. I think he can contribute something. And then also the other part of it is I just think he'll be great for that wide receiver room. I mean, a veteran guy like him, and anything you read about him from former players, former coaches, they just speak glowingly of how good of a team guy he is and things like that. I think that could be valuable in a relatively young wide receiver room.
But Jerry today even made a little, just a little passing remark about Odell Beckham Jr. Does he just like playing the hits there?
Loves it. Absolutely loves it. Yeah, we got him for about 3 minutes. I'm at the owners meetings in Las Colinas, and he was getting in his car, and so a handful of us went over there. He didn't have very much time. He had somewhere he had to go, but he answered a few questions, football, like Cowboys related questions, and so. It's very clear if he's asked about Odell Beckham, he's not going to shy away from it because, let's be honest, Jerry wants to work. Jerry would love nothing more than Odell Beckham to join the Cowboys and be the difference on the Cowboys making a deep playoff run. Like, that's the thing. Like, does Jerry want to win a Super Bowl? Absolutely. But Jerry also wants the great story to go with it. So as long as Odell Beckham doesn't sign with another team, Jerry will not shut the door on that.
He will scratch open that, or he'll peel that scar back as much as he can, the scar being obviously attention. Now, that game Sunday, they won. Bottom line, they found a way to win. The Texans threw up on themselves when they had the ball first and goal at the 4 and didn't score. Any concerns come out of that? I saw where someone said that the Texans exposed the Cowboys. What was the overall feeling this week after what happened Sunday?
They're not going to admit this, but I just think they played to their opponent, and they did it for 3 quarters against the Colts too, but they turned it down in the 4th, scored 33 points. And so you kind of forget about that. But I don't know. I just got this feeling that they're looking ahead to that Philly game, and I think that this was kind of a wake up call. And then plus with the way that the Jaguars played on Sunday, I think that I don't think you'll see the same Cowboys team on Sunday in Jacksonville that you saw against that Texans team on noon at AT&T Stadium. I think that they're just the way they were playing to me looked like a team that was kind of like we can turn it on when we want. We'll win this game, and that ended up working. And obviously that won't work against San Francisco or Philly or any teams they would see in the playoffs. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because of the Minnesota game when they needed to play their best against a good team. They were, they sent a message to the rest of the league with that 40-3 win. So are they that team? Are they the team that played the Texans? I don't know. They're probably somewhere in between. But still, I still think that puts them right there with the Eagles as the two teams you look at as the favorites in the NFC.
Who do you expect to contribute more of their recent waiver pickups, Mackenzie Alexander or Trayvon Mullen?
Man, I'm going to lean towards Mackenzie Alexander just because he's been in the building a little bit longer. But what's interesting about Mullen is the fact that he fits what they're looking for size-wise from their corners. That's the thing about Mackenzie Alexander and Kendall Sheffield. They're a little bit smaller guys. Will McClay and the Cowboys have really wanted the longer, taller corners, and that's what Mullen's been. And so this is just a situation where they lose Anthony Brown, they lose Jordan Lewis. They need to find some depth there with some veteran experience. So I think that also you can throw, even though it's a different position, you can throw Tack McKinley in there too, where they're just trying to keep them in the building and ready to go because, at some point they're probably going to be called upon. It might not be till the playoffs, but they want them ramped up. So if they are called upon and have to play in a game, that they're ready to go and they know all of their assignments. So it's tough though. I mean, I could see any one of those. It's just, they're getting pretty thin at corner, so they have to have options.
Do they replace Jonathan Hankins?
I don't think so. Not with anybody noteworthy, at least. And the reason I say that is because, Mike McCarthy said today that it's a 4-week injury, that the way they look at this. And so they expect him to be back for the playoffs. So because of that and not being season ending, I don't see them making anything really significant. But yeah, his loss is obviously going to be felt. I mean, since he's been with the team, the run defense has obviously improved. It's not all because of him, but there's no question that he has helped them in that area. So, Neville Gallimore's going to have to step up. Osa, Quentin Bohanna and those guys, Carlos Watkins. I think they have the guys in the middle to get it done and be solid against the run, but I don't see them making any type of a notable move.
John, thank you, man. Appreciate your time. John Machota, theathletic.com, and the Cowboys in the NFL. Paxton, by the way, in the text line reminded us that Bijan Robinson was named the AFCA first-team All-American, consensus unanimous All-American across the board. The 23rd Longhorn in program history to earn unanimous All-American honors, and, of course, an amazing player who will be very much coveted by NFL teams here in the next few months. Has he actually made any announcement yet?
Who?
Bijan.
No.
I don't think that's actually been out there, but I think most people feel like that he might be, of course, moving on to the next.
Well, I thought he and Roshan Johnson weren't going to play in the bowl game.
I know.
That was the report. They never have said
Yeah.
that they're not going to play, but
Yeah.
that's the indication is that they are not going to play, and also DeMarvion Overshown, but I don't think there's been anything official on that.
Yeah, I have not seen anything official on that as well. Okay, when we come back, we'll have Paul's top five. Man, I tell you what, the chat room as well, again, the page Redwine65, Nerf, Paxton, Provo, Cougar fan. Many of you who have been on there, Mark Tharp, and Roger Dodger wanted to know about what were the sanctions against SMU for what happened back during when they got the death penalty. Yeah. They were shut down, and it took almost, 20 years for them to actually ever recover from that and get to be competitive?
But go look at everything that they've done since that day. And it almost feels like they even knew that was excessive even for what happened.
Excessive's a great word.
And so they kept stepping back, and then better lawyers kept getting involved in the other side. And then you take that day to the day that Penn State won their appeal on the Jerry Sandusky penalties that they were levied, and that was the day that the NCAA was over. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the day and then after that happened, then O'Bannon, then Alston, and like all these other things have happened to them. So the day the music died was the day they lost that Penn State thing.
Yeah, I think Penn State's when you can basically see them when they just started sitting on their hands, just counting money and deciding like, well, we can't do anything about anything, so we'll just let this play out and let this thing run out as long as it possibly can to where we are now, to where everybody's like, what is the point of this entity? You run the basketball tournament?
Yeah.
And outside of that, like, we can't do any of this other stuff on our own, really. And that's why I think ultimately you probably will see some other.
The enforcement part.
Yeah, the enforcement part go under the umbrellas of the
part. Yeah.
Some other entities under the conferences, whatever the case may be. By the way, on Texas, real quick, they got 2 more weeks to the bowl game. So I would imagine maybe like right after, maybe in the next week or so, I think you'd start to hear some of those decisions.
Yeah. You know who the NCAA is right now? They are the guy in Office Space who invented the jump to conclusions mat when he was in his meeting in that movie. It's like, so you take them physically. It's like, no, my secretary does that. So like, what do you do here? Like, that's what you have to ask the NCAA is, what do you say you do here? And they don't have much anymore.
There's nothing wrong with them at least running events. And even that's going to be you hear Scuttle, or even you've heard even commissioners, et cetera, talk about taking that away from them. They do a hell of a job running the NCAA tournament. They screwed up the women's tournament the last couple of years when they had that disastrous type setup in San Antonio.
Did one here recently. What was the tournament they just had that there was complaints?
Oh, it was a tournament. Yeah, there was something.
In Vegas. Yeah, in Vegas, the Vegas tournament that had
was
a
that
bunch
an
of
NCAA
complaints.
event?
I don't think that was probably NCAA event.
But the tournament in Vegas, obviously didn't have Google boxes,
right,
where they can find out.
They didn't pay attention to the big backlash. But, I don't blame the NCAA for the Vegas tournament, but they had made those missteps before, and how others who are running tournaments don't, Google and say, something. But as far as the question about we got to go, but SMU, everybody talks about the death penalty. But if the question was what actually were they penalized with? Not just the death penalty. The 87 season was canceled. And they were only allowed conditioning drills during that entire year. All home games the following year in 88 were canceled. They got to play 7 away games so that the other schools didn't lose money.
Right.
That was the only reason why SMU was allowed to play. But they only could play away games just for the sake of the other schools' finances. Probation was already in effect. That got extended all the way to 1990. Bowl ban was in effect, and live television ban was extended until 1989.
Which is as much of a killer as anything other than maybe postseason.
They lost 55 scholarship positions over 4 seasons. They were required to ensure that a number of boosters that had already been banned from contact with their program were actually banned, or else they could face even further punishment, which I guess they would have said, like, maybe you're never allowed to have a football team ever again, would have been because that's what else are you going to do? Yeah. It could only hire 5 full-time assistant coaches. You were supposed to be able to hire 9.
9 at the time, yep.
And no off-campus recruiting until August of 88. No paid visits to campus by potential recruits until 88, 89 started up. So, I mean, like, that's the death penalty. That's what they got hit in every way, shape, or form. Yeah, that's why SMU took so long to recover, and that's why that will never happen again to any program unless there's like a World War level, like conspiracy going on. That'll never happen again.
We knew Andy Bergfeld, who I think is like on the school board in Tyler. He was a player that was at Lee High School, now Legacy. He went to SMU in his 3 years there. In 89, 90, and 91, he was one of those that went and played at SMU, and obviously he was a mess during that time. But some guys still had football, but it wasn't the same, and it took about 20 years before it ever was. All right, when we come back, Paxton Paul, if he goes 0 for 5 today, and he's given you his top 5, but if you change yours for him, we might have to put him on probation.
He is
0 for forever.
He is currently 1 for 4 and not in the right spot.
Well, but then if he's got one, that breaks a terrible streak of his. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at Baylor.edu/alumni.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 landing spots for Grayson McCall. We didn't really get a chance to get into this because of Mike Leach and Chris Beard over the last couple of days. But Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina, a guy who's won a lot of games, is going into the transfer portal, and that is very interesting. I don't know if he would be my number one quarterback in the transfer portal. I mean, I don't know if he's going to take over
first for who would
take over Devin Leary, but he is maybe my number 2 right now because of how much this dude has won at Coastal Carolina, the numbers he's put up. Now, I will say this, Liberty is not on this list. And I know that Jamie Chadwell is going there, which would make sense if that happens, color me not shocked. But I think that he's doing this to raise the level of competition, and Liberty doesn't necessarily do that for him. So, number 5, NC State, they're losing Devin Leary. They have a guy that they like, but he is right, he can wait a little bit or whatever. He's from North Carolina. This kind of fits him. That's a good team that can win the conference. They're going to be playing against better competition than he's playing against at Coastal. I think it's a fit in Dave Doran's system. And, like I said, if Devin Leary's number 1, he's number 2. So that really softens the blow of Devin Leary leaving if you're NC State.
Yeah, it seems like those two are he and Leary 1A, 1B. Now, the guy you're talking about, whatever, that's MJ Morris, and he's just a freshman, and he looked pretty good in his limited time, and I don't know that NC State's going to go up in that. So I think it's the MJ Morris show now, and maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they would like to give him some more time, but that's certainly the vibes you got when Devin Leary was not in action, was this is going to be the MJ Morris show, and then he enters the transfer portal, and it's like, okay, it's really going to be the MJ Morris show. But, yeah, I mean, they've got a sudden hole to plug unless Morris is that plug. And if they feel that way, then certainly, I mean, McCall, like you said, he's 1A or 1B depending on how you look at it. So it would only make sense if you lost the 1A guy to go grab the 1B guy or vice versa.
By the way, the Regents meeting in California is currently under a protest delay right now.
That fits
which
the whole
is not
thing.
unrelated to what they're talking about.
To guess any of the 50 states where that was going to happen.
Yeah. Number 4, Florida.
Paxton!
They should be on every list of who needs a quarterback. Also, Grayson McCall has a mullet, works in Gainesville very well. But I think this is Billy Napier, Grayson McCall, Florida's. I mean, they got to get more skilled players around him. The one thing I would keep Florida off this list, the NIL money will be great there. Like, everything would be what he wanted, except for the fact that they're in a very transitional period there, so they'd have to also rope in some better skill position players around him to make that more enticing than some of these other schools. But, I mean, if they can get him, they can get these other guys, and maybe chicken and egg on that.
How many years does he have left? Just the one?
Just the one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But Florida needs somebody to be a starter next year and not put them any further behind the 8 ball.
Because they have Rashada and Lagway coming, right?
Yeah. They've got time to have a 1-year guy or 2.
Yeah, and as we see so often, like, who are these freshmen that come in and actually play really well right away?
Not many.
Not many at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, hardly any of them do. Like, maybe, like, the premier super blue chip guys, but, like, even, like, Quinn Ewers was pretty good by the end of the year, had, like, a solid debut season, but it wasn't like he was, like, NFL ready and all of that. So, yeah, like, Rashad and those, they can wait a little bit. I mean, I understand that you can't wait too long in today's day and age of,
quarterback depth and the transfer portal. But, yeah, they can wait a year, and you could have a little stopgap. And I think Florida would be a great landing spot. That would be a huge get for Billy Napier. I've seen them mentioned quite a bit as a school that would make sense for him because of that very reason. Is they've got quarterbacks. They just are on the way or they're young right now. So, yeah, I could definitely see him in Gainesville.
Yeah. Number 3, Oregon. Going to have to replace Bo Nix. I think skill set's pretty similar. And this is the place on the West Coast I could really see him going because, again, if you're Grayson McCall and you're trying to check a lot of boxes as you move up this list a little bit, and maybe not necessarily for number 1, but I do think that it bears mentioning. But you want teams that can compete and win a little bit more and maybe get some hardware on the way out the door. And Oregon can certainly do that in the Pac-12 in the coming years under Dan Lanning. And so I would think that this one fits him as well. And Oregon also, DJU is going to be in the mix for Oregon. He was committed there before. But if I'm picking between DJU and Grayson McCall, I'm taking Grayson McCall.
Who are you picking out of Bo Nix and Grayson McCall?
I'll keep Bo Nix, but I tend to think that Bo Nix is going to leave.
Okay,
but,
fair enough.
But if Bo Nix stays, then this is a non-starter right here. But the iron is hot on Bo Nix right now, so I might go ahead and.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because it has not been determined just yet on what he's actually going to do, and there is a chance that I guess in theory he could come back. I know they got some young guys on that roster too. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about the Ducks and like their progression on the young guys to know like who's next or who's expected to do what, how soon, and all of that. But that's entirely hinging upon a Bo Nix decision. But otherwise, it makes sense, and I think Oregon's out on the trail. I've certainly heard rumblings about with what they got going on now, that they're very much on the market for a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, they have to at least be ready for when Bo Nix makes that decision if it's not the one that they want to hear, for sure. Number 2, Tennessee. If Hendon Hooker's going to be gone, look, that's an offense he can step right into. Look, they're losing Tillman and Hyatt, yes, but he will be prolific in that offense. Very prolific. And Hendon Hooker was great this year, and – Smoak, you gave him a Heisman vote, and so he if he was that good in that offense, coming from the lack of experience that he had, what is this guy going to do?
That's a quarterback-friendly offense, that's for sure. As we saw when it was a version of it, original version or earlier version of it was being ran in Waco. They could it seemed like plug and play, and I didn't work with exactly everybody to where they just, you don't skip a beat just by simply getting plugged into it. But certainly he'd throw for thousands and thousands of yards, and you do lose some pretty dynamic playmakers, but Tennessee seems to be paying well and spending in the, NIL game and making splashes in the portal, but also with their recruiting class. So I don't have any doubts that Josh Heupel is going to have some weapons, whether they're fresh or, aged veterans, they're going to have some guys to be able to throw the ball around to. I mean, I do wonder with Iam Liava, like what kind of a promise is there as far as like, is he expected to also sit a year? I don't know, again, enough to be able to say for sure. But yeah, if you just want a guy to come in and throw for a billion yards, then Grayson McCall could certainly do that under Josh Heupel.
Yeah. And number 1, Auburn. I believe he is scheduled to take a visit there, as a matter of fact.
I think they might be the favorite.
Yeah, they're the favorite right now. And look, Hugh Freeze is there. Hugh Freeze runs a very quarterback-friendly offense. That is going to be, and Philip Montgomery, not only that, if I said he's going to be great in Josh Heupel's offense, well, guess who else is running that offense? Philip Montgomery, the new offensive coordinator at Auburn. This is a great fit for him scheme-wise. Look, Hugh Freeze has probably been given a blank check by a lot of Auburn people to get a lot of this stuff done because they are, they've been a couple years of behind not only the Alabama 8-ball, which they were always behind, but the rest of the SEC 8-ball, Auburn is sitting behind right now, and that's why they brought in Hugh Freeze. This is the favorite. This is the one I think is probably going to happen, but not only just because of all those other things outside of it, great scheme fit for Grayson McCall and can get them a bridge the gap a little bit so that Philip Montgomery and Hugh Freeze can get the quarterback in there for the long term that they want.
Yeah, I still wonder if I know you said why you don't have Liberty on here. I definitely think they've got to be in consideration just because of the Chadwell connection. But he is visiting Auburn this weekend, it appears. And I mean, they've shown that they're willing to do whatever it takes to win. I mean, that's why they hired Hugh Freeze, right? I mean, they're making no bones about their desire to shake things up. And they've now gone and made a couple splashes with their coordinator hires. I mean, I don't know how much of a splash Ron Roberts is, or Philip Montgomery for that matter, but we know them pretty well. And so to us, those are splashes. Like, those are two really good coaches that he's hired. But Montgomery as an OC is an absolute freaking steal. And I don't know how everybody allowed Hugh Freeze to be able to get him as his OC. Like, how he was just sitting out there before Freeze came calling. And maybe he wasn't. Maybe there were people that were interested, and he just wasn't interested until the right opportunity came, which was Auburn. But, yeah, Philip Montgomery with Hugh Freeze and Grayson McCall at the helm and whatever else they end up doing in the portal, that'd be pretty scary stuff on offense. I mean, that'd be pretty dynamic.
Okay.
I'm surprised. I wonder if there was any contact between Auburn and Randy Clements.
I
With
wonder.
I don't know, but you don't always keep the band together all the time.
No,
you know?
I know, but I just was I just asked if there was contact. You wonder because he's a part of that offense that they will be running. But in Heupel,
if I was Randy, I'd rather go work for the guy
North
I'm about to
Carolina,
go work
yeah.
for than
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze.
Hell yeah.
Then,
Yeah, no,
I
that's
mean,
a great point.
Yeah, I mean, like Mac
if
Brown.
I'm Randy, I'm just glad I'm getting another opportunity.
Hey, but if Mac Brown calls me, I'd love to work. I mean, I'd love to work for Mac Brown. By the way, right before we go, the meeting is, at least on UCLA, they've solved the problem. Nothing exciting is happening. The president will return to the Regents at a future meeting after Pac-12 media agreements are finalized, with a recommendation for a contribution by UCLA contribution by UCLA to the Berkeley campus in the range of $2 to $5 million to be used to enhance student-athlete support at that campus. Such recommendation will be based on the best available information on projected revenues for both campuses. So no one is. Thank you to Dylan for saying that.
Token check.
So UCLA is going to the Big Ten.
Yeah,
and they're basically going to have to pay a fee on the way out that will go to Cal.
I'm so happy.
One school in the system.
Yeah.
Not the whole system.
Not
Berkeley.
Yeah. Exactly.
So they're going to the Big Ten. That's basically what everybody cares about. They don't care about Cal, except for if you're a Cal person. But outside of that, UCLA is going to the Big Ten. Book it. It's over.
It's over. It's a token thing just to make somebody feel like they may have won something. All right. Thank you, all of you in the chat room. It was fantastic today. Thanks to the chat, the text line. Was able to get back and forth with a handful of you on that today, including Glenn and others, and Joel and Steve, Frog Fan Paxton, and everybody else in between, the 573. Garrett Ross, Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie. For Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Tomorrow, back at it at 3. Sports Tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel with us. Good night on 365 Sports.